You are now listening to the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Welcome to They Live by Film, a platform dedicated to bringing you film discussion and interviews from around the world. I am Adam Lundy, and I'm joined as always by my co-hosts Chris Haskell and Zach Bryant.
Hello,
Hello.
hello.
Ahoy there.
Good,
Uh,
good. Happy 4th. Happy July.
Happy 5th of July, everyone, because that's when we're recording. And that's what I celebrate the 5th of July rather than the 4th of July, but only on this year because it's a Saturday and I like Saturdays. So,
And this is probably like the first
happy
Saturday
5th.
we've recorded together, and probably like I'd say if we take the 5 years we've been here, we may have been able to record on a Saturday like five times.
Yeah, it's a rare occasion for a
Yeah,
Saturday recording. Um, but it's nice. It's
yeah.
nice. It's nice to be here. Obviously, it's been a few weeks since we've been together, since we recorded the last episode. Obviously, it's the finale of our Mission Impossible run through, which we'll get into in a little while. Before we get into any other business, something I'm pretty sure I teased it at the end of the last episode, but I can't remember for sure. So I'll just go over it again. For people who are maybe long-term listeners, you might remember a couple of years ago we were running a website, theylivebyfilm.com. Something that we decided just we didn't want to maintain anymore, so it was just a lot of work, so we took it down. But we're dipping our toe back into that world. We're not bringing back the website per se, but we're doing what a lot of people are doing these days, and we're launching a Substack. Substacks are the hip, trendy thing to have now. So we're doing one as well. The link will be in the description. It's just theylivebyfilm.substack.com. It's going to be a completely free blog. We're just going to be putting up reviews, thoughts on things, not even just like traditional reviews, maybe just like different pieces on stuff that's happening in the world of film at the moment. We're all going to be contributing, and we also have some kind of external contributors as well, people who've had worked on the website previously. It's a free Substack. There will be an option if you wanted to support us. We haven't set that up yet. We're going to do that, but there will be a support option if you're into that sort of thing. But you won't get any additional content. It would purely just be if you want to support the podcast. But otherwise, it's completely free. So if you use Substack, the link will be in the description. Go give us a follow. We're going to be putting up some content. It's going to be pretty empty if you're listening like right when this episode drops, but over the next few weeks, there's going to be quite a bit of content dropping there in terms of different reviews and pieces. So yeah, that'd be a good way for us to kind of express ourselves outside of the podcast format.
Can't wait. I think Substack it seems like it has more flexibility too. Like if you want to just make a whole post or something, so can be a little bit broader than what we did on They Live by Film. I'm excited to kind of grow with it.
Yeah, for people who may be unaware what Substack is, so you might have heard of it, or you may have never heard of it before. It's essentially a blog. A lot of journalists are using it these days as a way of kind of controlling their own content and what they put out. But it is, for the lack of a kind of a better term, it is essentially a free form blog. So you can kind of think of it as your own kind of feed into They Live by Film. As Chris said, it doesn't have to be traditional long form film reviews. There can be various pieces, there can be haul posts. We can engage with you guys, the listeners, a bit more as well. We can put up polls, we can ask questions, you guys can leave comments. So, just we can kind of think of it as a bit kind of a sort of an extra layer to what you get outside the podcast. You can kind of get a peek into our more kind of day-to-day film lives, and we can maybe hopefully engage with you guys a bit more as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've talked about that a lot, that it has been such an issue throughout the years of how do we like engage with the audience, because we haven't there's always been this like wall of separation, and I hope this will kind of be the fix for that, because even when we had the website, I don't think we had comments turned on at all
No.
or anything like that, so hopefully that'll kind of help bridge that gap a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Or
Um, Roy, should we get into any other business? It's been like a month since we recorded, so I'm sure we all have stuff that we've seen. in that
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, let's do it. What, how, Zach, what is your 2025 count up to?
Like for 2025 movies or for like how many movies I've seen this year?
Yeah, the latter.
318.
Okay.
Jesus.
So we're in July. So that's basically,
You're basically watching two movies a day.
Yeah, on average. I mean, yesterday, let's see, what did I watch? I watched like five yesterday. Yeah,
Oh,
five yesterday.
I wish I
Yeah.
had bros time.
Like this, I wish I could show my stats. Like, oh, I don't know. You guys have stats page, so you can go like day of the week you watch movies. Like my Friday, because that for a long time is my only day off. It is like way above everything else. So it's like I watch a bunch of movies on Friday, a couple during the week, and it just kind of averages out that way.
Yeah. See, I
what,
have mine comes in waves. So like I had a really strong start to the month. I watched two movies on the 5th, and then I watched three movies on the 6th, which was
Ooh.
like unheard of for me. And then I didn't watch anything again for like 2 weeks. So it just comes in waves whenever I get time.
I don't I unlike you guys, I don't have children or much of a life, so I can sit there and just watch all this stuff and still somehow not watch half the movies I own. So that's the real
I know.
impressive part.
What's the drink of choice as you're watching five movies on a Friday? Are you a beer guy or
Oh no, I hate beer. I am a hard liquor guy. I like yesterday I was drinking Buffalo Trace. That was what I went with.
What's that?
nice?
It is a Kentucky bourbon.
Oh,
It's
nice.
it's a middle shelf one. Like it's very popular because it's a middle shelf option that tastes pretty good. It's got a very unique flavor. It has like a spiciness to it. Um, but yeah, it's hard to get. I have to go on Monday at my ABC store, which I know actually neither one of you may not be familiar with ABC. So in Virginia, we have things called like alcohol beverage control. We have to buy hard liquor at those
Oh, okay.
state ran businesses. They're
Oh,
ran by the
Oh,
state, so that's where we get our liquor. You can
yeah.
that
buy beer and
is
wine in a grocery store, but you can't buy liquor.
that is bizarre.
Oh yeah, I mean you go into like because we and a lot of this comes from like prohibition laws back in like the 1920s. So you go to like Philadelphia, there is very strict rules, and it may not be Philadelphia exactly. It may just be Philadelphia, Pennsylvania or something like that. But it comes into like certain states will have you have to serve food if you want to serve alcohol, like even to sell alcohol. So what some places will do is they'll find like a two-story place that's got like a restaurant on the bottom floor, and they'll put a bar on the top floor because
Okay.
those old laws are still around, so they have to follow those so they can sell liquor. So yeah, you'll get a lot of that, some old dry county stuff, especially in the South, because there's still counties that kind of follow dry county laws. And for a long time, the county I lived in had what they call Blue Angel laws, where you could not buy alcohol on Sunday.
Okay.
They would just block you from like now they don't do that now, but for a long time it was you cannot buy alcohol on Sunday.
Yeah,
And
we're not allowed to buy any beer or anything on Sunday here.
yeah, North Carolina, we can't buy it before noon.
Okay.
Which is my
We
girlfriend. My girlfriend went at like 11:30 one time, and they denied her to buy alcohol.
Oh
It
yeah,
was so dumb.
maybe it's something like that.
It's
Maybe
similar in Ireland. In Ireland, you can only so Monday to Saturday,
Uh,
anywhere, whether it's a pub, a grocery store, whatever. Monday to Saturday, you can only buy alcohol from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Now if you obviously you can drink after 10 if you can buy it like in a bar or whatever, but like if you want to go to a store and buy like, cans of beer or bottles or whatever, you can only do that between 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. After 10 p.m., you can only buy from a licensed bar. Have to have a late license bar
and
or club or whatever. And
and do
then
you
on
guys stay open all night? Like, is the pub stay
no,
open till the morning? Okay, because we have like
no.
a 2 a.m. cutoff here.
2
Like after
a.m.
2
is
a.m.
yeah,
Yeah,
2 a.m. is the same here.
yeah.
Yeah, 2 a.m. is the absolute. So you need to have a late license, and a late license allows you to sell alcohol from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m.
I'm
Uh,
actually kind of relieved because I was sitting there waiting, like, because I was saying all these laws we have on alcohol that the someone from Europe is gonna be like, what fucking Puritans over here
no.
and have all these fucking
Well,
laws on
see,
alcohol.
well, see, a lot of our laws are still kind of based on old Catholic Ireland.
Right.
Like if you go to mainland Europe, it's basically you drink all night and do whatever the fuck you want. Whereas in Ireland, we're still kind of like on Sundays, you can only buy alcohol afternoon. It's 12 to 10 on Sundays. And like literally, it's not even that they won't even let you. It's like the systems are built so that if you try and scan alcohol at a till in like a grocery store, it just won't even go through until after
That's how it
12.
works at ours. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then up until a few years ago, you couldn't buy alcohol at all on Good Friday.
Really?
Um,
Okay. I don't think as far as I know, we didn't have anything like that. Now I could be wrong. It could be like something fairly
yeah.
old
Like
because
that
alcohol
only
laws have
changed like a
changed.
few years. Like even like I was an adult when that changed, you know. So people used to, but like it was stupid because people used to just go the Thursday and just stock up and just have house parties on Good Friday instead. So it was a dumb law anyway. Like
You
it
can get
wasn't
past
illegal
it.
to drink, it was just legal to sell alcohol, you know, so it was easy to get past it. Um, but yeah, that's what it's like here, which I don't really care to be honest. I'm not really a big drinker. I don't only
I mean,
drink a
I
couple
don't
times a
drink to get
year.
drunk. I'm not somebody who likes to get drunk. I like to get a little bit of a buzz, and I'll maintain that buzz. Like, I'll have a couple drinks, and then I might not have anything for a few hours, and then maybe I'll go make another one if I feel like it, and that'll be kind of it for me.
Mm,
Like that's my drink. I've never liked being drunk. I don't enjoy it, and it might be because I didn't start drinking until I was like 23.
yeah, yeah, I
You know, I
never
didn't.
don't get the
Yeah,
appeal.
yeah. It just it never seemed very fun to me. Like, I don't know. I've been drunk a couple times and I can't say they're great memories.
Yeah, I'm more like you. I don't know that I've ever been. I mean, I've been at some work events where I probably wouldn't have driven home because we've just been pounding drinks all night. But I wouldn't say that I was drunk. Like I remember it very well, and like I was probably buzzed or something. But I mean, I definitely was buzzed. But I don't think I've ever been like drunk, especially blackout drunk or something. Um, I just I just don't want to do it. So, but I like alcohol.
Yeah, like I like a drink. I'm someone who enjoys a good drink. I like a whiskey sour. That's kind of my go-to mixed drink.
Okay. Do you put a cherry on it?
If I have them, it's not a requirement. I mean, half the time I don't even mix it that well. I just like throw a shot and a half of whiskey and I finish it up with like maybe a little bit of Sprite and some whiskey sour and I go with that. Like I don't think too hard about it.
Nice, man. Well, they live by drink.
Yeah, everyone got to learn our alcohol preferences, I guess. I didn't
Yeah.
expect that.
Does anyone want to go through their watched stuff? I can go through mine if you want. I don't have that much. I'm sure you guys probably have more than me.
Sure, Adam, go for it.
Right. So there's no rhyme or reason to the stuff I watched. I just picked whatever I was feeling like that day. Um, Pretty much everything I watched in the last month have been first time watches as well. Don't think there's any rewatches that are worth talking about anyway. So I watched Sisters, Brian De Palma. Um, Pretty good time. It it didn't really like expand on the like I thought it would like expand more. I don't. If you guys, I assume you guys have seen Sisters.
Yep.
Been
Yeah,
a while, but yeah, yeah.
I thought it would like expand more and there would be like more murders. You know, I thought the scope would be bigger. Um, so I was like halfway through and I was like, oh, I'm like halfway through and I don't think there's going to be any more murders. I think that's it. It was good. I enjoyed it though. It's pretty creative. I really like the kind of split screen stuff that De Palma does when he does those kind of split screens following the two characters and they come together. So there's some cool creative stuff in there. I think this was his first thriller, I'm pretty sure. Um,
I'd say so, yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
it's like still at 72, 73.
1972, yeah. So I think this was his first like the first De Palma film, I'm pretty sure. Like, you know, in terms of like what he became known for. But yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it. I watched the
Which
film.
Hitchcock did it rip off? That's the question. I actually don't know if it does in this
I
one or not.
don't
I can't.
like no, it doesn't really, to be honest. I couldn't no, I don't if it did, I don't recall one anyway.
Yeah, I couldn't think. It's been so long since I've seen it. I was like, maybe it does, but I don't know
Yeah.
if it counts as his Hitchcockian cover stories.
No. I think actually there's like a dream sequence that's kind of vertigo-y, if I remember correctly. But no, there's nothing major, in terms of especially like compared to later stuff. I watched a movie on the Criterion Channel, a Chinese crime thriller from 2023 called Only the River Flows,
Oh yeah.
which it's going to be a Vinegar Syndrome. Well, one of their partner labels are putting it out, I saw. Pretty good film. Kind of like Memories of Murder and Zodiac, that kind of more kind of true crime-esque style thriller, but this one's very much centered on like rather than the crime itself, just kind of like what the main character's going through in his own personal life and how it's affecting his ability to do the job and stuff like that. So there's a lot of like personal stuff. There's a really cool dream sequence in it. It's really creative. Um, so that was a good film. I enjoyed it. I don't know if it's still on the Criterion channel. If I click on it here, actually, it will tell me. Yeah, it's still on the Criterion channel. It is also on Mubi here in Ireland, so it might be on Mubi in other regions as well. Yeah, Only the River Flows. It was good. It's 2023, so it's pretty newish film. I think in particular, Zach, I think you'd like it. So it'd be worth throwing on your watch list. Watched a couple of Radiance releases. One I really liked and the other not so much. The one I really liked was Je t'aime, which was by Alain Resnais, who Zach loves because of his film last year in Marienbad, which everyone knows is one of Zach's favorites films of all time. Um, Je t'aime is really good though. It's just really creative. It's basically a time travel movie where the time travel aspect goes wrong. So the idea of the time travel is that the main character will be sent back exactly 1 year for 1 minute, and then he'll come back and kind of report how it goes, how he got on. But what ends up happening is that the kind of the time travel aspect stutters essentially. It's kind of like, if a record stutters or like a Blu-ray stutters, and it ends up just he just ends up the whole movie is just skipping backward and forwards through different moments, and you're left to kind of piece together the narrative of this guy's life just based on the very small
Okay.
fragments you see. So it's a really creative film, like all kind of Rene movies. The editing is just fantastic. He's just amazing at editing movies. And that one was really good. I really enjoyed it. The one I didn't enjoy, which will be to Chris's annoyance, I'm sure, is the Suzuki film A Tale of Sorrow and Sadness. Which I'm disappointed in because the plot sounded really good. The actual like cinematography is really nice. It's a nice looking movie, but it just I just didn't connect with it at all. I didn't enjoy any of the characters. I thought it didn't really push the boundaries as much as it could. It felt for a movie that is quite weird, it also felt weirdly safe. So yeah, Tales of Sorrow and Sadness wasn't really for me, unfortunately. I can see why
No,
some
it's
people
okay.
might like it, but yeah,
I'm curious to see it. I haven't seen it yet, but that period in his life when he made that movie was like a really weird period for him because he'd been kicked out of the studio.
yeah,
And then remember that movie that we saw, Zagrina Bison?
yeah.
This
Unfortunately, I
was
do.
this was kind of made in that same era where he was just sort of trying to reestablish himself. So he didn't have, I mean, I don't know. I'm fascinated to see. I'm very open to not liking it, to be honest, because it's just I mean, I don't know, we'll see. I'll definitely see it soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like he wasn't like in his element, you know.
No, yeah, I can totally get that from seeing what happened here. Another movie that I didn't love, I thought was okay. I was actually kind of disappointed by it, was Night Moves. It's on the Criterion channel. It might have expired in the meantime, but it was on the Criterion channel. Gene Hackman. It kind of like it wants to be like, yeah, The Long Goodbye, but it's not actually as good as The Long Goodbye. It's okay. It's not a bad movie or anything. It's definitely better than A Tale of Sorrow and Sadness, but I was a little bit disappointed by it. I watched Lady Bird, Greta Gerwig. I'd never seen it. It's been on my watch list for a long time. Obviously, I'm a big Saoirse Ronan fan because, gotta rep Ireland. Um, and I really loved it. It's the type of like just quiet movie that I really love. I love kind of quiet character pieces, even if a ton of shit doesn't happen in the movie. I just like watching a character go through like like a small journey, um, which Lady Bird's character does that. So Lady Bird is good. I enjoyed that.
Could
I
you teach
want
me how to say her name real quick? How is it said?
Saoirse.
Saoirse.
Yeah.
Saoirse. Okay. Every time I read it, my brain breaks. So I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah,
I was,
Saoirse.
oh, I forgot to tell y'all. So, Adam, I was so happy to know you. So, we have this client meeting and we meet with somebody named Siobhan.
Siobhan.
You, well, you ruined it now. But yeah, I was so proud of myself because I saw her name and I shook her hand and I said, "Hey, Siobhan." And she goes, "Did you look that up?" I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "No American gets the name right." And I was
Which
like, "No,
is
I've heard." I said, "Well, I've heard that anytime there's an H after another consonant in Irish, it's essentially a V." And she's like, "Well, I don't know if it's that simple, but yeah, basically." She's like, "Yeah, you got it." So I owe you if I get that deal, I owe you some royalty.
well, like if like 10 years ago, I would have said, okay, fair enough. But like, isn't like know that show Succession? I'm pretty sure one of the main characters in that is called Siobhan.
I don't know.
Yes, the main girl, I think, is.
Yeah,
I
so
haven't seen it, but I believe I've heard that.
I don't even know what
yeah,
show that is.
it's like one of the most critically acclaimed shows of the last 10 years. Not
It's
important.
basically what you do for a living, Chris. You should watch it. I'm just kidding. You don't.
Really?
I don't think you're that evil. Don't
It's
worry.
on HBO. It's basically like a family kind of drama about like they
It's
run a
Game of
family
Thrones in the
business.
corporate room.
Yeah, it's kind of like Game of Thrones in a corporate setting, essentially. The family kind of vying for control over the family corporation. Um,
Brian Cox is in it, so
Brian
that's what's
Cox is the
important.
kind
Yeah.
of he's the head of the household, the head of the family. Kieran Culkin is one of the sons, and I can't remember the name of the other
Does Kieran
actors.
Culkin play a Jewish guy?
No, thankfully not. Um, yeah, that's like critically acclaimed and stuff. But like I think the daughter of the family is called Siobhan, so I think the name has gained prominence just due to the popularity of that show.
All right, well, then I take it back. I did nothing impressive.
No. I watched Rose Glasses two movies inadvertently because I didn't realize she made one of them until afterwards. So inadvertently I watched her filmography, or I think her entire filmography.
Yeah, she's only had two features, I
Okay,
think.
yeah, because I watched Saint Maud just because it was on my watch list forever, and I really liked Saint Maud.
Yeah,
I like horror that's ambiguous about whether there's actual, horror going on or whether it's just mental illness. That's kind of like my jam when it comes to horror films. I really like when there's like an air of ambiguity
you're a
as to.
Deborah Logan fan, aren't you?
I've actually never seen The Taking of Deborah
You
Logan.
fucking need to see it if that's like what you
Yeah,
like,
it's
man.
on my watch. Isn't Brian Cox in that as well?
Probably. Shit. Let me. It's been a long time since I've seen it. Here, keep
I've
talking. I'll look it up.
Yeah. I really like this one. There's some really cool imagery and stuff in it as well. Again, with it being a kind of smaller budget and stuff, it probably could have I'm sure if she had a bigger budget, she could have pushed it a little bit further than what was done. I thought it was a little bit undercooked, so I wouldn't call it like an all-time great or anything like that, but it was a good time. I enjoyed it. And then I watched her other film, which came out last year, which was Love Lies Bleeding, with Katie O'Brien and Kristen Stewart. And I didn't realize that it was the same director until afterwards. But that was good. I'm surprised I didn't like. I always end up finding out about twists in movies and stuff. Like inadvertently, I just stumble across them and they get ruined on me. But there's a twist in this film that I did not know about, and I would never have guessed it, and it just completely fucking took me out of the movie. I just I like I Me and Neve were watching it, and like when the ending happened, which I won't go into for spoiler reasons, but when the ending happens, I sat forward and I was like, has to be like this isn't really happening, right? Like this is like a dream or something. This is not real. And then like it just ended, and I was like, "What the fuck did I just watch?" It just like can't like it just has like such a fucking left turn that just maybe it doesn't come out of no, maybe I wasn't paying attention, but like it felt like it just came out of absolute fucking nowhere. I thought I was watching. I thought it like had like a dream sequence, and like it was just gonna go back to reality, and it was like no, this was it. I was like, what the fuck? So that it really took me out of it. But otherwise, I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was pretty well made. It was definitely well acted. Kristen Stewart and Katie O'Brien are both really great in it. It's good to see Katie O'Brien kind of get more and more roles. Because obviously, we'll be talking about her later in Mission Impossible: Final Reckoning.
Oh shit, she is in that, isn't she? I didn't even put that together. Yeah.
She is briefly in it. Yeah.
Who?
What else? What else? Sorry, there's a couple of more things. Watch Sinners. I'm not as high on Sinners as you guys. That was
It's
good. It's a fun time.
I wonder if it helps to have like an Americana. Like there was a part of Sinners that I connected with just simply on a like seeing that blues story told in a new way. I mean, there's obviously a lot more to that movie, but
Yeah,
like
it's a good movie.
I kind of grew up with that old timey like blues story and as like a story that I was told in some form. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I
I
wonder if
just,
it,
I just thought it was good, until I had that fucking lame ass post credit scene. That was just,
that whole like I don't understand it, and I think we kind of briefly talked about this, and we won't like same thing, won't go into spoilers for it. But it's not even like a traditional post credit scene because it ties together the rest of the movie. So I don't know why. I to this day I like I've thought about it a bunch, and I'm like I still don't know why he did it that way because it
I,
ties the movie completely together to finish it. Like there's like one lingering plot thread that wasn't finished, and they're like, "Oh, here it is," and it's like, why? Just
it's
have that as the
just,
end of the movie.
it was just like you can take Ryan Coogler out of Marvel, but you can't take Marvel out of Ryan Coogler.
Yeah, like
It
it
was
was a
so
weird
weird,
decision. Yeah.
very, very jarring. But yeah, it's a good movie. I don't know why everyone. I don't get the whole masterpiece claims or whatever, but it's a good movie. But like, I don't think it like rewrote the book on vampire movies. It was from dusk till dawn.
Yeah, you just get to see how the titty
yep.
twister's built.
It's just, yeah, it's from dusk till dawn. It's the same movie.
Yeah. Well,
So I don't think it changed the game or anything. It was a good time. I enjoyed it. I'm not saying it's a bad movie or anything. I gave it 3.5 stars. That's 7 out of 10. I don't think it deserved more than that. It was a good time. Neve really loved it. She liked it a lot more than I did. So maybe I'm the arsehole, which is very
I,
possible.
I'm there for Rocky Road to Dublin. That's why I'm always there.
Even that scene kind of underwhelmed me. I was like, oh, is that it?
Really?
I was like,
Yeah,
oh, that was it. Maybe it was just overhyped. Maybe I just went in
it
with
could have
like
been
really
like
high over expect. Maybe I just went in with too high expectations. Because even that scene happened, and I said to Neve, like, oh, this scene with the Rock Road Double, apparently it's like one of the best scenes, in recent movies. And then it happened. I was like, oh, okay, that was fine.
but you saw it at home, right? That
I
was kind
saw
of
it
the
at
big thing.
home. I did see it at
Yeah,
home.
I
Yeah.
do wonder like because I've only seen it on IMAX, and I think we talked about that a little bit how I'll feel watching it at home because I do think an IMAX brings a lot to that movie. I do think it's like intended like as that theatrical experience. So I'll be kind of curious to go back and rewatch it. It's kind of like obviously I think this is probably a better movie, but it's like I haven't rewatched No Way Home because
Hmm.
I think taken away from like the setting of this is the first big movie we're all back from COVID. This is in a
Hmm.
packed theater. I'm like, I bet I won't like it nearly as much
The
when
vibe would
I'm
be
at home.
different. Yeah.
Yeah, like you just that energy's gone.
Yeah, for sure. The only other things really worth mentioning for me, I did watch a couple of like 80s stuff I'd never seen before, like Lost Boys and Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, neither of which are worthy to really talk about. They were fine. Last night I Conquered a Fear. We've discussed this on the podcast before about how I have this irrational fear of watching Australians in horror movies.
Yes, I believe we've brought
Um,
that up.
I just no, just not for me. Just don't enjoy it. But I conquered my fear. I watched Talk to Me, um,
yep, yep.
and it was good. The
Hey,
Australian the Australian accent, I got over it.
You're so
I
didn't
brave.
you start this movie before and you turned it off
Yes,
specifically because it was
me and
Australian?
Neve turned it on, and we saw that it was produced by the South Australian film, whatever, and we said, nah, not for us.
That's awesome.
Not for us. Because just the idea of them going like, no, it's a ghost. Oh my God. I just can't take that seriously, It's just, I can't take it seriously. But luckily there was none of that really, and I got over the Australian thing fairly quickly. This is pretty good. I think it was your review. Yeah, because I don't think you had a review of it, Zach. I'm pretty sure it was your review, Chris. You kind of said the whole anti-drug thing was very heavy-handed. And
Yeah.
I really agree with that. This was like so obvious an anti-drug PSA in the
Yeah.
guise of a horror movie.
Yeah.
It wasn't exactly subtle.
Yeah.
So yeah, not the most subtle film going. But I watched it. I'll probably watch their new one, Bring Her Back. I'll probably watch that at some point. I'm not
I
really
like that
too.
one better. I
Yeah.
like it better.
My
Yeah.
dad liked it. He texted me the other day asking if I had seen it, and I said no. I heard it's a bit rough.
Oh yeah,
Heard it's a bit of a
that's a
tough
lot
watch,
beyond
but
it it spoke to me a lot more because it does work in like the foster care system and stuff like
yeah,
that, which
yeah.
is like, yeah, this is going to speak to me a lot more because I didn't do drugs when I was a kid, so that don't mean shit to me. Like,
Yeah, my dad enjoyed it, so I'll get around to it. So I'm not obviously not jumping to watch it because I've watched my Australian horror film now for this year, so maybe in like a year or two I'll watch it when I've cleansed
man,
myself.
can't wait till I start putting in Wolf Creek. Like we're going to start doing a Wolf Creek and everything else, man, for this podcast.
No, thank you. That's me done. That's me done. That was what I watched last night, so I'm up to date now.
Chris, you want to go? You want me to go?
Sure, I can real quick, and then you can bring us home with some good movies. So I'm gonna start with there's a partner label from Vinegar Syndrome that was is a little bit of a fan favorite. So some of the people that started up AGFA have a separate project called Bleeding Skull that they've been writing movie reviews, and now they're releasing some physical media, but they always find just these wild movies. Um, Really, usually like either SOV or like extremely low budget fare. So the one I saw from them recently was called Suro Alien Hitchhiker. Um, and um, I don't know. I'm trying to think of the best way to describe this. It's basically like it's like a it's the type of dialogue that you would see in like a link early Linklater movie where it's sort of like philosophy, just kind of weep like two people just driving, having a philosophical conversation, and then an alien comes down, and then there's a scene where this one dude's laying on a bed and an alien's on the bed next to him, but like that's the way that the aliens have sex, and so this human has like this intense sexual experience, and then they fall in love, um, but it's like a in the realm of the census style lust, all on SOV. Um, then I saw Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning, which we'll talk about in a moment. And then there's a French filmmaker he made hardcore movies, but he also made a series of art house films. His name was Jean Rollin, and his very first one was called, well, the first one in his like vampire series was called The Rape of the Vampire. It's a black and white movie and is an early sort of art house vampire flick. His movies all feel like watching Carnival of Souls. They have that dreamy kind of something's just off sort of vibe to them. So I love that vibe.
You're confusing Adam because you started, well, he's probably like Rape of the Vampire, not interested, no thank you. And then it's like Carnival of Souls. He's like, maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe.
you had my curiosity, but now you have my attention.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, it's actually not about raping vampires. That's
Just a
like
provocative name.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, like that title's tied into the lore of like how this one coven sort of, why they want revenge. It's sort of like yeah, it's just like a hook. But it's a very dreamy, soft core. Yeah, it's like if a Cinemax director got a budget and wanted to make an art house black and white picture that still had a lot of nudity in it. Then going on, there's uh, I think this story just cracks me up. There's a film festival that happened in the Philippines in 1981 where the president's wife wanted to showcase Filipino cinema to the world. So held this like big international film festival and had press there. And the only movie that got picked up for international distribution was a movie starring a 2'9" James Bond character. His name was Wang Wang, and the name of the movie is For Your Height Only, and it's a Bond spoof.
I swear Chris just makes shit up to see if we believe him.
No,
Like, I
no,
think he just makes all this up.
no, 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 this is real. The movie is hilarious. Like his go-to move is to like slide under people's legs and punch them in the nuts. Um, the movie is just amazing. It's a yeah. I don't know. It's just very it's a good comedy, and you can tell they were fully in on the joke. And it's meant to be a comedy. And this little man is like smooth. Like he hooks up with all these, regular sized women. Anyways, it's a good time. Um, Last one. Well, I'll talk about two more. So there is a movie that I was so excited about that finally got a release. I've been hearing about this movie for a long time. It's called Charlie One Eye, and it's a western, I guess you could say, where a escaped slave um, meets up with an injured Native American, and they form this like very unexpected sort of friendship and partnership as they just try to survive in the desert of like the Old West. It's shot very much like an Alex Cox movie, or like it's just very much a like slow, not a lot goes on, but there's like these little brief moments of intensity. It's a fantastic movie. Like it could be easily be a Criterion release. Like it's very well shot, fascinating character study. Um, and yeah, I love it. It lived up to all the hype. It's just really, really, really good. Um, and Charlie One Eye was the name of that. And then I'll talk about Mickey 17, which I did finally get to see on a plane. Um, I think people are probably a little too hard on that movie. I'm not going to say it was amazing, but like the movie's pretty fun. I I feel like it's going to be remembered better than the reception was initially.
I just like, I guess I kind of get what Bong is doing because this is how his American movies always are. Like, you look at Snowpiercer's Okja, OKJA. I don't remember how it's
I think
spelled.
it's just
How,
Akia, right? Okia.
yeah. He does this a lot where, I mean, he's already kind of a heavy-handed director, and I don't say that with like
Right,
to
right,
be
right,
mean.
right,
He's just a heavy-handed guy.
right, right, right.
He's super heavy-handed in his American films,
True, true.
and it's like, and I don't know, it's he goes for more sci-fi with American films
Yeah.
versus like the stuff he does in Korea and things like that. So I always think it's interesting, and I think Mickey 17, I think it's fun too, but I think it kind of falls into like the same exact problems as his other American films.
I think Snowpiercer was 2 to 3 times better than Mickey 17.
I agree with that. I think it's his best American film for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like it just kind of like all the weird stuff and the overproduction and everything that he does, it just sort of fits that story well because it's like a contained story on this train. It just I don't know, it fits well, I think.
It's Willy Wonka. Just
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, that's a good point. But yeah, I don't know. I Mickey 17 is good. I will talk about one more. Um, there's a movie that I would strongly encourage you all to see, both of y'all to see. I thought about bringing it up, although I'm really happy with what I ended up choosing. Well, I know we're going to get to that in a minute. There was another thread here where I was going to make us watch The Witch Who Came from the Sea, which Zach, I know you and I have talked about before.
Yep. Great
Mess-
movie.
Great movie. Messiah of Evil, which
Me
Adam you've
and
seen.
Adam, is that the one me and you talked about on
Yeah,
Radiance?
yeah, we covered that
Yeah.
on the Radiance
Okay.
podcast. Yeah.
I want to make sure that was the right one. Yeah.
Messiah of Evil, and then Let's Scare Jessica to Death. Um,
Those are that's a very good triple feature. Like
yeah,
right there.
like I was shocked. I've heard Let's Scare Jessica to Death is great. I was shocked with how much I liked it. It is an excellent movie. Like, and it's in that genre of that just like I don't even know the best way to describe it. It's just like an otherworldly like eeriness that just permeates through the whole film. And like, man, the actor in that movie, the lead actress Zora Lampert, I'm surprised she's not mentioned more as far as like strong female leads that are losing their mind because she's powerful in that movie. Like it's I was like, damn, this movie's like really good. Yeah, Let's Scare Jessica to Death. So I'll end it there, starting with Rape of the Vampire and ending with Let's Scare Jessica to Death.
Yeah, it's good cap offs, good end points. Let me get back to where I was. So let's see. I went through a couple different like phases since the last time we recorded. So I'll go over the first thing. I finally watched my very first James Bond movie. So that was interesting. I had never seen one. I watched Casino Royale, the 2006 one. I figured I'd watch the Bond ones. It was really good. I don't really have a lot to say about it because it's Bond, but I had a good time. It was better. It was better than I thought it would be, in all honesty. Like
Wait,
I actually
Yeah,
thought
as a new Bond, as someone new to Bond, that's probably a pretty good one to start with because it's
it was a lighter movie than I expected it to be. Like I think it's because it was in that era of like grungy darkness in the mid 2000s. I was like, oh, this is gonna be like one of those action movies, and I was like, oh, it's actually kind of light, and it's kind of light on its feet. Not like Mission Impossible light on its feet, but still, like it wasn't like brooding like I kind of expected it to be. And maybe some of the later ones are. I don't know. But it also kind of probably brings in the whole thing about like, and we'll probably talk about this a little bit. Mission Impossible. For some reason, like when they advertise these spy espionage movies, they really like, at least in the U.S., to advertise them as like these darker movies, and I feel like they kind of misrepresent them. I think I may have talked about this a little bit on the Mission Impossible last time we talked about it. Was the big thing that I remember them doing in the advertising? I didn't watch the movie then, obviously, but they use like Sean Harris's voice to make it seem so dark and sinister, and it's like, yeah, I wouldn't call that accurate to like what Fallout and Rogue Nation are at all. So I don't know. Maybe it's just a thing with spy movies in the U.S. that they kind of push that a bit, but yeah, I enjoyed that. I plan on getting to whatever the second one is. What is the second one? I can't remember. Quantum of
Quantum of
Solace.
Solace, which is one of like the ones that a lot of people hate.
Well, it's a terrible title. Like I don't even know what the fuck any of that means. Like what does that even mean?
Nobody knows what it means.
even even the
And
writers.
it's not and it's not provocative.
No, it's
Uh,
fucking terrible. I don't know. Quantum of Solace. Great. Okay, so to move on from there, I did watch one of the newer Nick Cage movies this year called The Surfer, which somebody described as Midsummer for Men. Uh, Adam, I would not recommend it for you because it takes place in Australia. But weird little movie. Basically, it's like Nick Cage is going back to where he grew up. He grew up in Australia, moved to America when he was a kid. That's at least what they're going with. And he tries to take his son to the beach where he grew up, and everyone's just an asshole to him. And they threaten to basically physically assault him if he tries to get into the water because there's basically like this surfer cult. And like the cop will show up because they like vandalize his car and shit, and the cop's like basically like part of it too. It's kind of a wild little movie. Nick Cage gets to do Nick Cage things, so highly recommend. I did end up going through a Liam Neeson run there for a minute. And Adam, I think I told you a little bit about it because I watched In the Land of Saints and Sinners, which had like 90% of the Irish output of actors all in one movie, which was really good. It basically goes over like a little bit of the North Ireland and Ireland conflict in the 1970s, and basically Liam Neeson plays this guy who was in World War II, and he ended up being a hitman for a while, and then he kind of like he's right before he executes somebody, they're like, what are you really doing with your life? And after he shoots him, he starts to think, what am I doing with my life? So he wants to retire and become a gardener. And you know, he ends up getting caught up because he finds like one of these um what IR is it IRA? Is that right?
yeah, the IRAs, that's the Irish Republican Army. So they were kind of like they started as a a way to liberate Ireland from the British, but then leaned more into just general run-of-the-mill terrorism.
Gotcha. Yeah. So they end up, one of them who's like helping them hide out ends up like abusing this little girl. And they're using them to like hide out. And Liam Neeson doesn't like this. So he ends up like shooting the dude, and it ends up bringing like a whole lot of shit. So that's pretty much the premise. It's a pretty typical one, but it's a little bit more thoughtful than a lot of like the action pot boilers he did there for a while. But speaking of action pot boilers, I also watched Walk Among the Tombstones, Run All Night, and Taken. I finally watched Taken again for the first time, and I hadn't watched it since I was a kid. And all I figured out from that movie is really middling, except for Liam Neeson is so good in it. Like the action in that movie sucks. It's nothing special about it. It's a pretty typical plot. Liam Neeson is just really, really good in it. And that is why Taken was remembered. Like there's no other reason to remember that movie.
I've never seen it, and I
You never
probably
seen
will
Taken?
never.
Okay,
No,
fair
probably
enough.
never will.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot better, like if you're gonna go for Liam Neeson action, I think there's much better movies for to go with than Taken. Taken was just, I guess, kind of his first. I think it was like his first like big action movie that he had
Yeah,
done.
that was the first one where that's when he kind of started his run then of just being this like, with this weird kind of career renaissance as an action guy. That was like his first one, I'm pretty sure.
Which is so funny because you look at like his career before that and you're like, this is not the guy. You're like, this is gonna be like an action dude for like in his 50s.
Yeah, it was a
Like
very
that's
random
not
kind
him.
of career turnaround, but
Hey, good for him. I mean,
good for
he had some
him.
good,
Yeah.
yeah, he had some good ones in there. And now we get Naked Gun, which I'm actually looking forward to because that was
Yeah.
probably the only good casting they could have done was getting Liam Neeson. So after I got done with that, I got into watching two Ron Howard movies, and I stick with my like opinion of Ron Howard that I think he's a very middling director who cannot like
Thank you.
yeah, he can't like take possession of a movie. Like it's all very bland. But having said that, Ransom is awesome. Like I watched Ransom for the first time, never had seen it. Basically, if you haven't, for anyone who hasn't seen it, basically Mel Gibson plays this guy who owns an airline system. His son is kidnapped and taken for ransom by Lieutenant Dan from Forrest Gump, and essentially, like he has to play this whole game of like take the money here, take the money there, and the first time he tries to deliver it, he kind of gets screwed over by Donnie Wahlberg. Well, not really by Donnie Wahlberg. Donnie Wahlberg's the one picking up the money, but obviously Donnie Wahlberg doesn't know where his son is. He's just picking up the money. And he then figures out that they have no intention of giving him his son back. So he ends up keeping the money through a thing. And he basically goes on the television and says, I'm not giving you a cent of this. I'm using this money as a bounty for anyone who can find you. Like, that's your choice. Like, you either can give me my son back or somebody's going to turn you in for $2 million, whichever comes first. It's really cool. And it's just because Mel Gibson's really good at it, because it has nothing to do with Ron Howard. Because I watched Backdraft after that had Kurt Russell in it. And that's a firefighter movie. And it's fine. Like, the problem is, like, Ron Howard just isn't an interesting enough a director to pull, like, any of that off.
Wait. Backdraft was a movie that I grew up with thinking was like amazing. I haven't even heard that name in 30 years, so it didn't age well.
I don't think so. Like, I mean, Kurt Russell's great in it, and I mean, that's fine. But really, the main character is William Baldwin, the Baldwin
Mhm.
brother. No one remembers,
Mhm.
and he's really to me, he's really the protagonist of the film, not as much as Kurt Russell. Like, Kurt Russell's obviously really good in it, but William Baldwin is kind of the Ron Howard of actors. So it's not interesting, and it like he's just kind of whiny, and nobody cares, and I don't care, and it's like, his character can just be cut out. And it ends up being like this whole thing. Like it sounds interesting because you're like, oh, we need to figure out who this arsonist is, and we're going to use Donald Sutherland, who is in the movie for like two scenes, and he's great in both scenes
Mhm.
because he was a former arsonist. And they like it's almost like it's going to be like the Silence of the Lambs thing. They don't do anything with it. It's
Mhm.
just like, okay, cool. But yeah,
Um,
I
am
didn't
I
think it.
am I mixing up who made A Beautiful Mind? Was that Ron Howard or Robert
That's Ron Howard.
Zemeckis?
That's Ron
Okay.
Howard. See, that's the thing. Robert Zemeckis is also you know what? I was about to say they're kind of similar directors, but I would at least say Robert Zemeckis is interesting when his movies are bad.
A Beautiful Mind is really good though. Just from a purely from a
Yeah,
directional point of view, A Beautiful Mind is. I can't say I don't think I can name other Ron Howard movies off the top of my head though, to be honest.
If you looked at his filmography, you'd recognize most of them. Like he
Oh, I'm
made,
sure I probably would. Yeah, I just can't think off the top of my head. But I suppose there's a reason why he's the guy the studios call in to finish it when they don't like the original
I
Mhm.
vision,
think I
right?
think he's a good working director. Like if you need
Yeah,
something like Solo, like I'll give credit to Solo as a movie. That movie with as much turmoil as it had, as bad as it should have been, is watchable. And
yeah.
that is really what Ron Howard is good for. Like he's not I haven't seen A Beautiful Mind in a long time, so maybe I'll watch it and I'll be like, okay, Ron Howard directed the shit out of this movie. But even like something like when I was talking about Ransom, I like the movie because he kind of lets the cast and crew do what they need to do. He's really good at that. I think he's good at managing.
Okay.
And I think that's important for
Yeah.
directors. I think it's good for them to know how to manage stuff and say, hey, you're the one going to carry this. Like you have Mel Gibson, it's like, fuck it, dude, just carry it. And that's fine. You have somebody with that acting ability to do that. But then you have somebody like William Baldwin, and you're like, no, he can't carry this. He just
Man,
can't.
Zem
And
Oh, sorry.
No, and I was gonna say the same thing with like Russell Crowe. I think Russell Crowe can carry a movie really well.
Sure.
So I think he's good, and I think that's good for a director. I praise Carpenter a lot for that. Is when you look at like when he talked about like having big actors, like he worked with Kurt Russell, he worked with uh James Woods, and a lot of people talk about how hard James Woods is to work with, and they never had any issues because Carpenter was like, I let actors do what they're supposed to do, like that's their job. Like my job isn't to tell them how to do it. And I think there is like a good management skill with that. If you have a good actor who can do that, just like do what you need to do. And same thing with like Donald Sutherland or when he had Jeff Bridges and Starman and stuff like that. I think having those actors, it's like, yeah, they obviously know what they're doing. I don't need to manage them. And I think that's where Ron Howard can be really good.
Before we move on from Robert Zemeckis, because I'm sure that like just because we're tying them together,
Mhm.
just look at this run of 10 years. Romancing the Stone, Back to the Future, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, then Back to the Future 2 and 3, Death Becomes Her, Forrest Gump. Like that's a hell of a run.
Yeah, and I does he do Castaway? He does Castaway, doesn't
Oh
he?
yeah, I guess you could say Contact was a pretty big movie at the time, although I'm
Yeah.
sure that sucks now. But yeah, Castaway. And then,
It was really the mid 2000s where Zemeckis dropped off like on a fucking cliff.
yeah, I'm just looking.
Like,
I mean,
and
he
I'm not
talked
even saying I like all the movies he did in the 80s and 90s. A lot of them I just kind of find fine, but I can't like deny how, influential he was.
yeah.
Like, I mean, he was kind of like discount Spielberg in that sense.
Uh-huh.
It always felt like
Uh-huh.
discount
We have
Spielberg.
Spielberg at home.
Yeah. Um, After that, I watched 28 Years Later. I'm not gonna talk a lot about it, but movie's awesome. Probably one of the few horror movies I've seen in a long time that like made me tear up quite a bit. Like it's a very emotionally resonating horror film. Um, Not very scary. If you're going in for scares, you're gonna be disappointed. But if you want to be fucking sad, 28 Years Later is great.
Sad at how giant the cock is of that woman.
Yeah, I mean that it does make you feel very emasculated. Let's see. After that, what else did I watch? What else did I go through? Oh yeah, I went through a little bit of a Tony Scott run. Watched Crimson Tide, which really tied into the last Mission Impossible. I'm really glad I watched Crimson Tide because when they started saying things like EXO, I'm like, I know what the fuck that is because I just watched Crimson Tide. So that was great. So me and Adam both got a Gene Hackman movie in through this time. Watched Days of Thunder, which is actually one of my dad's favorite movies because he was in racing and things like that. Honestly, if we ever do another racing one, I would really love to do Days of Thunder. Really enjoyable. Uh, did Enemy of the State and Spy Game and The Hunger, and that was kind of the end of my like run with Tony Scott for a while. And then I watched some Mission Impossible, and I'll end it off on my July 4th watch, which was The Patriot, which is the greatest bit of American propaganda ever made. Five stars. I will watch that almost every year just because, I mean, there's always a criticism that, oh, this movie's just propaganda. It is 100% right. The Patriot is propaganda. It's really, really good. And I don't care.
Any movie that says "fuck you" to the Brits gets an all good in my books. So
Yeah, my favorite part of the Patriot. Well, there's a few good Patriots, but they don't want to completely not acknowledge that the French did, give the U.S. a country. So they like have one. They have one French character, just one. It's like, see, we acknowledge the French. He was there. Otherwise, all colonies. The colonies did it. And I'm cool with that. I mean, there's a part where, somebody gets shot and then they just throw a musket up and the dude like turns around and shoots somebody. I'm like, this is so awesome. So inaccurate. I don't even care. I'm for it. Shoot evil Jason Isaacs. Who might be the most, like, I swear that Jason Isaacs got the part of Lucius Malfoy because of this movie. Because he basically just plays the character again.
He does evil very well.
Yeah, like smarmy, evil British dude. He's really good at it.
Yeah.
But I think that's where I'm going to end off at. That's pretty much catches me up somewhat.
there you go. Get into the featured presentations, I guess.
Yeah, hour in, guys. I hope no one was just anxious to hear about the final two parts of Mission Impossible. You've had
Yeah,
to wait a
imagine you
while.
like tune in. Our listeners must enjoy this, because I can't imagine tuning in to listen to what we think on Dead Reckoning, and they're like an hour in, and we're still here talking about fucking how shit Ron Howard is.
Like, did Ron Howard ghost direct one of these? What happens?
Right, let's pull it up here. So, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, formerly known as Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, when it
Now,
was
explain
originally
to me,
out in
was this going to be
theaters.
like three parts, or was it always going to be two
It was
parts?
always going to be two parts, and it was going to
Okay.
be part one and part two, and then just for whatever reason, they just decided they wanted to rename it. They just didn't want to do the whole part one, part two shtick. I don't think there's more to it than that, really. I don't know if it was like a late decision that the next one was going to be like Tom Cruise's final one or whatever, and that's why they wanted to call it Final Reckoning. But as far as I'm aware, they just were sick of the whole part one, part two shtick, and
And
just
I mean, they
said,
should
"Oh,
know by now, final
yeah,
means nothing. I watched the fourth Friday the 13th. Final means
exactly."
nothing. Yeah.
Exactly. And Final Friday. Um,
They did it twice.
yeah, so it truly does mean nothing. So just to give the kind of rundown, oh my God, the plot on Letterboxd is so long. Okay.
Oh, God.
Ethan Hunt and his IMF team embark on their most dangerous mission yet to track down a terrifying new weapon that threatens all of humanity before it falls into the wrong hands. With control of the future and the world's fate at stake and dark forces from Ethan's past closing in, a deadly race around the globe begins. Confronted by a mysterious, all-powerful enemy, Ethan must consider that nothing can matter more than his mission, not even the lives of those he cares about most. That is a long way of telling us nothing. Um,
Ethan Hunt goes rogue to save
yeah,
the world.
yeah.
Boom. Fucking done.
Done, done. That's it. That's the movie. We've done this six times already. This is it again. So, um, I suppose just to jump in, like it's been I didn't rewatch these. So it's been a little bit of time since I saw this, but I've seen it twice, so I'm pretty kind of I remember it pretty well. I suppose just kind of starting off from the beginning with it really. One thing that, and I warned you guys about this with both movies, really, that it's one of those films that kind of start really rough.
Yeah.
There's kind of running joke that the Mission Impossible movies are built in the editing room. They just shoot a bunch of shit and then they just find a way to like put it together in the editing room.
Yeah.
And this one definitely feels a lot like that.
Yes.
So I have a theory about this,
Go ahead.
how this happened. So, of course, we watched Rogue Nation and Fallout, which I don't think have these problems. And I really think this is like kind of shows the importance of what a good producer does. And that's not to sit there and say, I forget the director's name, him and
Christopher
Cruz,
McQuarrie.
McQuarrie.
good producers. Yeah. But this is the first one since the third one that we've lost Bad Robot and J.J. Abrams. And I think this comes from if, someone like Abrams is there who it doesn't really give a shit about giving answers to anything in the world. He would just be like, yeah, just cut all this explanation out. Nobody gives a shit.
Exactly.
And I think that is kind of, there's not many times I think we really see the power of what a producer loses, but that's my theory is losing JJ kind of made them think we really need to like draw out and explain everything. And he would have been like, no, don't do that
Okay, that's an
at all.
interesting theory. So J.J. Abrams was the glue that held it all together.
Yeah, I mean, I would go with that. I think JJ is a good producer. I have issues with him as a director, but as a producer, I think he's pretty good at that. He
Okay.
also did long form television, so I think he has more trust for the audience sometimes. Like he's like, look, they saw last week. It's fine.
Yeah.
They'll
No,
they'll
I
catch up.
I think that the trust in the audience, I think, is a much more bigger problem in Final Reckoning, and we'll kind of cover that
Mhm.
when we get to
Yes.
there. I think that's much more problematic in the next one in comparison to this. But obviously this movie kind of starts off pretty heavy in terms of like getting you into the plot. It does have that cool sequence at the start with Rebecca Ferguson's character kind of hiding out, and they have that kind of shootout, which is cool. Um, and with both of these parts, again, I'm going to try and talk about them individually as much as I can. They both have a similar trend where there's a singular moment when the plot kind of kicks in, and then it just gets really good from there. So for me, when things start really going down in the airport, that's when
Okay.
like the plot really, that's like the key moment for me where we've really kicked into gear, and I think the rest of the film just gets better from
So when
then
Ethan Hunt starts doing
onwards.
magic tricks, we're good. That was
Yeah,
actually my favorite part. Like it was him doing magic tricks.
yeah. So from there onwards, that's for me when we kind of get through the faffing about at the start, and the series has been no stranger to faffing about at the start because there's always that kind of pre-title card shtick that's going on, where like in Rogue Nation, where they're like he's getting on the plane to and he flies up in the plane. There was always that kind of pre-title card shtick going on.
Mhm.
In this one, it just elongated for like 20 minutes before the plot like really kicked in. I think Final Reckoning is even worse on that front, which again we'll get to when we
Oh
get to
my
that one. But
gosh.
once the plot kicks in on this one, I think it's very good. There's a lot of things in this film that I really like. Again, the set pieces, the character work that's done are top notch. I like that they brought back Harry Searney
Me too.
from
I love him
the
as an actor.
original.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird. He's kind of just had like a career resurgence in like the last 10 years, which is kind of funny because he was in Scream 6 as well.
Ready or Not. Yeah.
Ready or Not,
Yeah.
he's kind of like shown up in a few things in the last like 10 years. So it's cool to see him kind of back doing things. I think he's very good in this film as well as this kind of like he's kind of like an antagonist, even though he is ultimately kind of the good guy. He's also just kind of an arsehole. So his character treads a really interesting line throughout this movie and the next one, where he's not a villain, but he is still kind of a secondary antagonist in a way because he's trying to stop Ethan doing his mission the entire time. Um, so he's interesting in that front. Um, the actual villain of this film, well, I suppose there's kind of two. There's the kind of main villain from an overarching point of view, and then there's the kind of human kind of villain, which is a dude called Gabriel. Played by a guy called Esai Morales, who I'm not very familiar with. I don't know if you guys have seen him and
Oh,
stuff. I didn't really
No.
recognize him. I didn't really know much about him. He's kind of he has an interesting role in this film. Um, I think they kind of built him up as this kind of interesting guy from like Ethan's past or whatever. They have that kind of mini flashback, where it shows him kind of having this seminal moment in Ethan's kind of career and how he became part of the IMF, and there's that interesting setup there. They introduced another new character, played by Haley Atwell, who plays Grace, who's this kind of thief, this pickpocket expert pickpocket, um, who ends up kind of becoming a bit entangled with Ethan Hunt, and then eventually kind of joining in with the mission. There's also a really good secondary antagonist who's played by Palm Clementieff, who plays Paris. I'm sure Chris enjoyed her character, considering he loves the Guardians of the Galaxy movies for some fucking reason.
wait,
Um,
because I love what?
the Guardians of the Galaxy movies for some reason.
What do you mean for some reason?
Like,
Anyways, yes.
yeah. So, and that was Shea Wigman as well. Shea Wiggum, sorry, is in this, which we'll
Yeah.
talk a little bit more about his character, I think, in the next one.
Yeah, yeah.
From what happens. So there's a lot of stuff in this film that I think is very good. It's still a step down for me in terms of like Rogue Nation and Fallout. I think they're still like top tier, indisputable. I think this is kind of like the next level down. Just purely because there's a lot of over exposition, and they try and do a lot of stuff without inflating the runtime to huge levels.
Yeah, because I mean the
Um,
plot for both of these together is what, 6 hours?
yeah,
Like, oh
exactly.
yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot, and it probably could have been cut. I'm not going to say cut it down to one movie or anything, but they probably could have cut out a bunch of stuff to kind of
Two two
streamline that a
hour
little
movies would
bit.
have been fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you could probably streamline it to get there if you needed to. But like I said, there's a lot of stuff in this film I like. The set pieces in particular, like that set piece with the motorbike going off the cliff.
So cool.
So fucking cool. Have you guys seen the behind the scenes footage of them filming that?
Oh Jesus.
Not yet, not yet.
It's so fucking awesome. It's just literally they just build a ramp on top of a cliff, and obviously they CGI the ramp out to make it look like he's just going off the cliff. But he literally just goes. He just Tom Cruise just gets on a motorbike and just jumps and just goes off a cliff, off a ramp, off a cliff, and just and then like he gets to the bottom, and you see Chris McQuarrie's on the walkie-talkie. He's like, "You all good, Tom?" He goes, "Yeah, I don't think I did it right though. Let's do it again." And Chris is like, "No, what do you mean? We're
We're
not
not
doing this.
resetting that.
We're not doing this again." He's like, "No, no, I think I can do it better next time." It's like, for fuck's
You,
sake.
you know, I always hear these stories about actors who say, "Oh yeah, I really wanted to do this stunt, but they wouldn't let me do it." And it was something simple like going, like falling down the steps. And I can't believe not everyone was like, Tom Cruise got to jump off a fucking cliff. Like, you cannot tell me this is not allowed.
Yeah, and I can only imagine this is why Tom Cruise is insisting on being a producer on these, so he can
So they can't
actually
say
tr
no.
they can't tell him no. He's like, "Fuck you, I'm a producer here too. I'm saying yes, let's do it." So that's funny. But yeah, there's obviously some niggling problems with the story and stuff. I think the opening is quite rough. I probably have the same issues with both of these movies. I have a little bit more issues with the second one. I enjoyed it in the theater, but it's one of those ones where like as time has gone on, I'm kind of thinking that's dumb, that's dumb. That's dumb. I don't
Yeah.
really have that with this one. I've seen this one twice now, and I enjoy it both times. It's actually still one of my favorites of the franchise because it's like once it kicks in, it's a lot of fun. This
Yeah.
is a very kind of like, despite it having a quite a, I guess, a serious plot in terms of like end of the world shit. It's still quite a fun film. Um, there's one creative decision they made, which is kind of spoilery that I won't get into right now. Maybe we'll get into towards the end that I really wish they didn't do. Just like a creative thing, they made a decision with the plot that I didn't like. But we can kind of get into that more when, yeah, if you guys want to give your thoughts, we can go from there, really.
I'll just be quick because you said a lot of things I pretty much agree with. But the one thing I did want to note, because this will kind of go into when we get into Final Reckoning too, is we talked a little bit about Gabriel's his name, right? Just make sure I'm
Yeah.
right. Yeah. I did not like him in this movie. I thought he was incredibly unnecessary for the most part. And I didn't think he was a very charismatic. Like, he's not the worst villain because we had whatever that dude was in Ghost Protocol, whose name I can't even remember.
Yeah, he's
Uh,
definitely the worst. Yeah, 100%.
yeah.
And I
So,
think it's Hendrix or Hendrickson, but
okay.
I'm not
I'll believe you.
100%
You can tell
sure.
me anything and I'd believe you. Um, but I didn't really think he was too interesting, but I actually do think he's really interesting. Well, not interesting, but I think he's a lot better in Final Reckoning. I think in this one, it's almost like he's a little too self-serious, and then he feels a lot more cartoony.
Oh
And
my God,
Oh,
I have like the opposite opinion.
really, yeah, I loved
Yeah.
him in I loved him in the last one. I was like, finally, something
no,
like.
Zach's right. Zach's right. I was gonna say the exact same
So
thing.
this is gonna be interesting. So you like Gabriel better in this one than the next one?
Yeah, I think he's more interesting as this kind of like, this puppet master kind of guy, and then he becomes like a fucking cartoon villain in the next one, going like laughing maniacally, like fucking like it's a Bugs Bunny cartoon or some shit. It's
I will say
very
the airplane sequence in the
jarring.
next one is very much a cartoon sequence.
Oh,
Oh
As
yeah,
so
no,
awesome as
for
it
sh- for
definitely.
yeah, like for sure, like some of the sequences stuff in the next one. But yeah, I prefer him kind of as this more serious puppet master style villain as opposed to the what he becomes in the next one, because they could just kind of throw out everything about him. It's basically like two different characters between the two films.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of where anybody would stand because I don't know if there's going to be anyone who necessarily says I just like Gabriel's character from both 7 and 8 because it's like either if you liked what they did in 7, you're going to hate what they do in 8, and then if you
Yeah,
didn't like him in 7, you might like him a little bit better in 8. So like it's because they do change him quite a bit.
Hmm.
yeah. I don't want to talk about eight too much because I know we're gonna like talk about it separately. But for me, eight is kind of the tone I want in a stupid movie. Because like the plot for seven and eight is just kind of dumb. It's just like, okay, like
Now let's all be
AI.
aware, Chris is very biased when it comes to AI because of his job.
True, true, true. And like the name of the villain is like the entity. Like it's just so dramatic. And I think in seven, I was bored because like I think they took it too seriously and they were like trying to make some drama thing. This was the writer for this wrote for Band of Brothers. That was like how he got famous. And I feel like, I mean, I'm not gonna knock Band of Brothers. That's an amazing show. But I'm just saying, like, it has that serious drama, like everything, all the big stakes and everything. And I feel like in eight, they're just like, you know what, fuck it. Like this is a goofy plot. Like let's just have fun with it. So I loved eight, probably my second favorite one of the franchise, or third maybe. Anyways, but like this one to me was just kind of boring and long and dramatic, and I didn't like it that much.
See,
Interesting.
I was definitely more positive on it, but my positivity comes like in the same place I think Adams does. Once we get past whatever all that exposition is, I think the movie it still stays like pretty fun all the way through. Maybe not as fun as eight is. I do think eight is like on a fun scale, it's more fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the movie. I think at least it doesn't. It never goes as serious as like Mission Impossible 3,
No.
which is definitely like the most self-serious
No,
Yeah.
of
I
any
think
of
I
them.
think the tone is still pretty consistent from what we had in Rogue Nation and Fallout, and now this. I think tonally it's still pretty consistent. It's not quite wacky or anything like that. I still think it still has that light but serious. Like the plot is serious, but like we're not taking ourselves too seriously. Kind of
Right.
middle ground that they've found with Rogue Nation and with Fallout. I think that's consistent here as well. Um, I think the film is probably, I don't want to say it's constructed a little bit better, but like I think this is a tighter film to the next to Final Reckoning
Oh,
personally.
for sure.
I think it's tighter.
It's about
From a
5 minutes shorter, right? Like I think
It's
this one's
about
a little
5 minutes
shorter.
short, but like
Yeah.
that's not a big difference.
No,
But
that's just I wanted to confirm to myself. I was like, I think
yeah,
they're about the same
they're
runtime
about the
too.
same length, but this one feels like much tighter, whereas the next one is just kind of a little bit all over the place.
Literally, I
It's
think they go to like four continents in the next
Yeah, and it's just
one.
like it never stops. It just
Mhm.
like Chris, you sent us a text you sent us a text message when you were in the theater watching this the other day, going, "Oh, they just did this sequence. I'm just taking a pee break," and I'm like, "You're taking a pee break during? You've probably missed half the fucking plot in that pee break because this film never fucking stops."
Yeah, really, it's like, okay, wait till about the 30-minute mark and then go pee and then come back.
Yeah. So I was really surprised when you said you took a pee break. I was like, this dude is gonna miss fucking everything.
No,
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, there was like a massive explosion. It was right after the end of the first major set. It was the what was it? The um well, we'll talk about it when we get there. But yeah, I knew there was going to be at least like a minute of downtime. So I just quickly ran out. But yeah, I don't know. The one thing I will say, and I'll say this about both movies though. I didn't like seven, but like it, there's these movies are just like as much as I want to shit on new movies and like bad scripts and all that kind of stuff. Like this is kind of what movies like. I think movies are two different things, right? The movies can be challenging and kind of novelistic, which is one thing, or they can just be kind of escapism. And for me, this is like peak escapism entertainment. Like it's a good. These are fun,
yeah.
All
right?
I'll say on that is I know authors that use subtext and they're all cowards.
Fine, but I know which of the two sides that you choose, but I like there's a lot of escapism that's not good, but like
Well,
this
we
is
did Fast and Furious last year, which doesn't say all Fast and Furious is bad, but we did Fast and Furious last year, which I
yeah,
think could be a good example of that.
Yeah,
yeah,
because I would say tonally these films are very similar to the later Fast and Furious movies, but these are just infinitely better movies.
Yeah.
yeah, yes, no,
Like I would
totally,
honestly kill for James Wan to have been able to do a Mission Impossible movie. Like I think if we take like the who directed later ones, I'd be like, James Wan could have done a Mission Impossible movie. And it
sure,
probably would have been pretty dope.
sure.
Mm.
He might get a chance. I mean, the only thing that's weird is that this movie didn't really make that much money. It like
This was COVID. This was like middle of COVID, I think, right?
no. Well, I mean, I guess, but it's 2023, so the world was kind of opened up by then.
Oh, was it that late? For some reason, I thought it came out in like 2021 or
It was
something.
supposed to. It was supposed
Oh,
to.
okay.
It was Tom Cruise kept delaying the release because he wanted to come out and when people could go to the theaters. Kind of similar with Top Gun.
Mm.
Those movies were made quite a while ago, and then the release was delayed to ensure a full theatrical release.
Well, it is kind of funny to think like so Top Gun Maverick and Dead Reckoning were both delayed because of that. Want to do that. I don't think anybody would have guessed after Mission Impossible Fallout that it would have been fucking Top Gun Maverick that would destroy the box office like
True.
it did. Like made ridiculous money.
True.
Really?
Oh yeah.
TC is huge. Top Gun's huge. I think that was always going to be a slam dunk.
Oh, you're
I
saying
always thought it was going to be successful, but I
The
didn't
people
think it was going to
fucking
make like
love
what,
Top
like
Gun.
$1.5 billion or
I
whatever the
think
fuck it was.
I
It was
think though I think the word of mouth really helped with it because I don't give a shit about Top Gun. I don't really particularly like the first one. Neve likes the show. It was more I went with her because she really
Mhm.
likes Top Gun. She's a big Tom Cruise fan in general, so she wanted to go see it. I said, "Cool, I'll go see it." And then I went and told everyone to go see it in the theaters.
Go see Top
I was
Gun
like,
Maverick.
go see this movie in the fucking theaters. This the big screen, go to the biggest theater you can find. I probably even told you guys to go see it
And I still
at the
I still
time.
haven't seen it.
But like you've missed it when it was in the theater. Like I wouldn't watch it now. I have no interest sitting down and watching Top Gun Maverick right now. But like if it was coming back for like a theater for another theater run, I would be tempted to go see it again because in the theaters with the fucking surround sound, huge screen. That was that was just a great cinematic experience. And I told everyone to go see it. Go see this movie, biggest screen you can find. Go see it. It's fucking awesome. So I think word of mouth probably helped with that as well.
I will say, kind of bring it back to Mission Impossible. I do have a lot of regrets that I only got to see one of these in theaters, like especially like from Rogue Nation, Fallout, and
yeah.
the this Dead Reckoning one we're on. I would have loved to have seen those in theaters because they
Yeah.
just feel like I do feel like I miss like a small element
Yeah. No,
that I
I
can't
agree.
get back.
Yeah, I was looking up to see these two in theaters. I didn't see any of the other ones except for Ghost Protocol in theaters. I didn't get to see the Rogue Nation of Fallout in theaters, unfortunately, but I did get to see these two, so I'm grateful. I'm grateful for that.
It's kind of
Um,
funny to think back to Ghost Protocol now that I've seen all these and how much smaller it seems now, even though
yeah,
it felt bigger than the first three. Like it's like, man, fucking Ghost Protocol feels like a very small movie now.
Chamber
yeah,
piece.
a chamber piece, yeah. The chamber piece where they blow up the Kremlin. Um, but yeah, it's definitely a series that's always been. I suppose it has to get bigger every time.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, well, obviously we'll get into Final Reckoning now, and that's pretty much as big as you can get with this series. Like, I don't see how they can come if they come back and do a new one. They just kind of have to reinvent it because
Fucker is
that's
going to space.
you
He's
kind of
going to go.
have to like at this stage like they've gone as big as they possibly can. I suppose we'll kind of move into Final Reckoning a little bit here because it is easier to talk about them as a collective, I found. Um, and kind of talk about the differences, you know, what I liked between the two films. One thing I will say, if we can get kind of a little bit into spoilers with Dead Reckoning, the decision to kill off Ilsa still hurts. She's just one of my favorite characters of this whole series. I just felt like she was done so dirty.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
kill him, and I didn't like that they seemed to fake kill her off at the beginning, and then they real killed
yeah,
her off, and it's like I hate that shit. It's like you faked it out. You like I don't know. It feels cheap.
yeah, and like just the way they did it as well, it was just so just undramatic. I just felt like it didn't do the character justice. Um, I know this Gabriel guys, we don't really know much about him. Obviously, I was hoping we'd learn more about him in Final Reckoning. It's one of my big fucking issues of Final Reckoning. I was hoping we'd learn a little bit more about him. But it's assumed it's obviously he's an expert kind of agent or whatever. So I guess it would make sense that he would be able to go toe to toe with her and best her or whatever. But yeah, just that stung a little bit for me. Especially kind of because of what happened. So like if we go into Final Reckoning for a moment, one of my big issues, I have a few different issues with characters and how they change or become underdeveloped or you know just yeah just the differences between characterizations between these films. One of my big disappointments in Final Reckoning, and I will talk about some good stuff. I just want to kind of want to get my disappointments out of the way. The character of Grace, she is so underdeveloped for someone who has, you know, the best part of 6 hours screen time across these two movies. You know, we don't even know her surname. We don't know anything about her. We, her only skill seems to be that she seems to be pretty good at pickpocketing. And that's like the only reason she's kept around is so that she can do that kind of thing towards the end of Final Reckoning, just to have someone who's good at that. It just feels like her whole character is just a bit unnecessary.
Well, what's always
Like,
they did fix that because one thing that's kind of funny in Dead Reckoning is it's Tom Cruise who does the pickpocketing for Gabriel in that one. It's
yeah,
like, what the hell is she here for? He did
yeah,
it.
yeah. Like the character just, and I look at, I've no disrespect to Haley Atwell. I think she's pretty good in it in the role. She's not given a ton to do or anything like that, but like she's not bad. She's definitely like we've seen some worse kind of female kind of team members in this series. Um, Especially if you know with I can't remember the actress's name, but the person who was in Ghost Protocol as part of the team, I can't remember her
I
name.
forgot she existed.
Dreadful
So that says a
actress.
lot.
So
Yeah.
Haley Atwell, like she's far from the worst part of the series or anything, and I don't think it's her. It's not her fault at all. It's purely a writing thing. Her character is just so unnecessary. Like everything she does in this film can be done by other characters that already exist. So I just don't really, and I was hoping maybe, you know, in Final Reckoning we'd maybe learn more about her, or she'd become a bit more pivotal. Her skills would become like it was just pure underdevelopment. It was just like let's just keep Haley Atwell around because she seems
Yeah, I mean,
nice.
she has good chemistry with Tom Cruise, which I think is like a big, I guess, a big thing she adds is. But I mean, then they kind of try to do the romantic, almost a romantic subplot, and then I'm just like, it's not working. That part's not
No.
working. The stuff like when they're, I guess, more platonic, I think that actually works really well.
And I think that Rebecca Ferguson was better at that
Yeah, that's
than
true.
Haley
Yeah.
Atwell. So I just don't see why the character exists when you could have just had Ilsa there doing all of that stuff instead. So that's one of my main gripes really. It's just that character of Grace just seems wholly unnecessary to the two films, and I'm just disappointed they made no attempt to really give her a purpose of being in these films in the second one. You know,
Yeah, I almost feel like they wanted to, they had like a list of people they wanted to kill for these last two movies, like team members or whatever. And they almost strategically picked who it could be.
Mhm.
yeah.
And we'll get into that with like Final Reckoning as well. Like, I think the choice that they made there in like the end of the first act, I was like, yeah, I was like, you're not going to do this to Simon Pegg. You're not going to do this to, you know, certain other characters. So it's almost strategic in that way. And that can kind of feel
And
it can kind of break it a little bit. It can be like, okay, yeah, I know why you picked these characters.
so you touch on another issue I had with Final Reckoning, I guess. We're probably fully into Final Reckoning now at this stage, unless there's anything else with Dead Reckoning anyone wants to shout out about.
I feel like it's hard to talk about anything in Dead Reckoning without how it's paid off in the
Yeah.
last one. Yeah, so I'm good.
No, I don't. I mean, I just feel like maybe we should spend 30 seconds just talking about the set pieces because every one of these movies has like a major stunt that Tom Cruise does.
Yeah.
And so for this one, there's a big scene on a train, and then I'm sitting here trying to remember what was the big set piece for this one?
The motorbike off
Motorbike, yeah,
Wait, what?
jumping off
the,
the cliff
the
into.
motorbike going off the cliff.
Oh, onto the train. Yeah. So like that's awesome. That's
I
like
did want to bring up the since you brought up the train. This is how I actually learned JJ wasn't a producer anymore because there's a part where they're like over top a like the train is going over the cliff or whatever,
Hmm.
and I was like, that's funny because I remember when Uncharted 2, which is how that game starts, is climbing up a like
yes.
train that's going down. JJ Abrams famously, like when he reviewed that game when it came out, said that was the greatest way he had ever seen any bit of media ever open up, and he thought it was one of the greatest ever done it. And so when I saw that, I was like, that's interesting. I was like, JJ must have really liked and wanted to do it. Then I was like, wait, Bad Robot had nothing to do with this. I
Yeah.
was like, that's kind of funny. That's how I learned he wasn't involved. But I was like, that's kind of interesting because they do a lot of like Uncharted things. And I was
Very
like, I
much.
know he was a fan. So I was like, that always kind of made sense. So, you know, that one might just be more of a coincidence.
Yeah. No, but that's all. I just wanted to call that out because like that's what you pay your money for, right? In the
Yeah.
Mission
Oh,
Impossible movie.
absolutely. Yeah. You'll
Yeah.
sit for 2 hours of espionage to say, man, that fucking 2 minutes of that was awesome.
And there's a lot of that in Final Reckoning. Like there's a lot of great stuff in that we could talk about in Final Reckoning as well.
Yeah.
Um, I'll just mention a couple other things that just disappointed me. So as I kind of touched on earlier, the whole Gabriel thing, he's set up in Dead Reckoning as being this kind of key to Ethan's past, who had this kind of key pivotal moment that kind of
Mhm.
changed how he and it's the reason Ethan had to join the IMF and stuff. And then like we have no context for it. They don't even like throw it away to kind of explain their connection. It's just like they forgot about it. They're like afterwards, and they're probably sitting in the theater going, "Shit, we never actually mentioned any of
There's two.
that."
You see, I'll tell you one that bothered me more because that one was one where I'm like, yeah, I didn't care in the first one, so I don't care now. But they have this whole thing. It involves Gabriel with Paris and how she's the one who wants like revenge on him and stuff like that. They set that up like two or three times in the movie, and then they don't really pay it off ever.
Yeah,
I was a little disappointed by that. I was like, I get like if you have the choice between her shooting him and Ethan getting to jump between airplanes, I get it. Like
yeah.
I'm not faulting you,
But
but it
why
was
set it
kind of a
up?
weird setup.
Yeah, why set it up in the first place if you're not going to pay it off? The other kind of major thing with this is that, again, something I kind of touched on a little bit earlier. It's it's a weirdly sentimental film. The franchise has never really been about like fan service or anything like that. Like most of these films are pretty self-contained. You can kind of
Uh-huh.
pick up and watch any of them. It doesn't really matter too much.
Mhm.
And I know this was the final one, so perhaps they wanted it, but like they like really fucking they really doubled down on like the fan service and sentimentality and stuff like that. Obviously, there's the insistent flashbacks
Oh
that
fuck
are
the
just
flashbacks, man.
constant, just like hitting you over the head with like just scenes from like other movies. Anytime someone mentions anything that happened in a previous movie, we just get the flashback, and it's just
Very
like it's
Family
what
Guy style.
yeah, it's just like we get like and this is what we kind of talked about earlier with like trust for the audience is like you really don't need to be hitting us over the head with this shit. Like you're showing us flashbacks from movies that were like 2 movies ago. Please
Well,
stop.
yeah, the
Um
only one of those I found necessary was we get the character back from the first film who designed like the whole security thing, and they show him like pick up the knife, and of course at the end of the movie he gives the knife back. I was like, that's a good use of a flashback. It's a good use of editing
but
because like that. I can at least say, okay, it's showing the guy how he was then and how he is now. I get that one, but yeah, I agree with you when it comes to like we just saw this last fucking movie. I
yeah,
literally just watched this yesterday.
I don't even know if that one is necessary to be honest, because they mention this explicitly who he is and what he does. It's just like
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's necessary, but that one I don't have an egregious problem with.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
the other ones where it's like the rabbit's foot. Let's show you fucking Ghost Protocol again. It's like, God damn it.
Yeah, so the rabbit. I'll talk about the rabbit's foot thing in a minute. I actually thought that was pretty. I actually thought that I actually quite liked that. I was laughing in the theater when they did the rabbit's foot reveal. I started laughing because we talked about this in the first episode that we did, but well, I'll get there in a second. With some other stuff, then you have the obviously there's that one kind of team member that's killed off, and then they don't have the balls to do it to anybody else for the whole
Mhm.
rest of it. No, everyone else just magically survives everything that happens to them. And even the one that they do kill off, they have to like make it seem that it's not that bad that they're getting killed off because they're already sick just randomly out of
Okay, I was going to
nowhere.
ask you about that. Was that set up in the previous
No,
movie? And okay, thank
because I
you.
was
That's
I
all I
was
needed to know.
honestly, like I was driving home and we were talking with me and Eve, and I was talking to Eve, I was trying to figure this out, and I was like, shit, I hope like that like Ving Rhames wasn't sick and that's why they did this or something. I thought maybe Ving Rhames was sick in like real life, and that's why they like wrote this in so that he didn't have to be doing like action heavy scenes or anything. But no, they just like fucking just pulled that out of nowhere.
And I
Um,
feel like it hits harder if you don't do that anyway.
I
Like, yeah, they feel like yeah, like you said, they want you to be okay with it. But
yeah,
I
they
was
want
like,
you to
if you
feel a
want it
little
to
bit
hit
better about him
harder,
dying.
yeah. But I
Um,
but I think it means a lot more if he's not sick and he still makes like that's the whole thing. That's like something they say it's repeated to a movie. Like do it.
do
What
you,
is it? Like do it for the people you'll never meet.
Yeah, like the only like logical thing I can think of is that obviously, Luther's main job is disarming nuclear fucking bombs, so maybe all that radiation has come back to hit him. Um,
And I would have accepted that if they had put that as the
mention it.
explanation. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
at least mention it. It was very random. That they, like I said, but like he's like that's the only one, you know what I mean? And they had to make you feel like at least semi okay about it happening. They didn't have the balls to kill anybody else off. And then probably the most fucking groan-inducing fan service was the whole thing with Shea Wiggum's character. You know, just suddenly fucking being oh shit, what's the name of the actor?
John Voight.
John, yeah, just being like John Voight's son just out of fucking nowhere, just with a
Yeah, because that
different
doesn't really do it. Because he even admits he has like he's not here for revenge over that. Like he doesn't believe Ethan, but it's not like what he's there for.
it's just so unnecessary
Yeah.
and random. You know, like I
Wait,
get he kind of looks like John Voight. It's like they probably, you know, it's fair enough. It could be his son.
right.
But like it's just so unnecessary. It's just there was a lot of just stuff with here that they just crammed in for like no reason at all. So those are my kind of main issues with it really alongside the really, really, really rough start of this film where it's just like constantly just jumping between something else and it's just all over the place. For me, where this film really just fucking gets good and never stops being good was like as soon as Tom Cruise jumps into the ocean and suddenly
Oh
the
yeah.
guys appear in the water, that was like, okay, this is a good fucking like from then onwards, like this movie fucking rules.
Maybe it's like the
So
American in me. I fucking love movies that do the show of force thing. Like that whole thing where the Russians like turn their plane over and show their missiles. I'm like, that's fucking cool. Like that's dope.
yeah, that
Oh,
like that whole like leading up to that sequence, like that, like I suppose when he arrives kind of on Hannah Waddingham's, who's playing an American randomly, when he arrives on Hannah Waddingham's boat, from then on, like this movie fucking rules. But especially when he is in the submarine, the guy who's playing the guy who's in the submarine. I can't remember the actor's name. I'd never seen him in anything before, but I fucking loved him. I loved his character. The guy who runs the submarine that
Oh
Tom
yeah,
Cruise kind of
yeah.
gets onto. I can't remember the actor's name now. I'm just gonna try and find it here really
Funny enough,
quick.
he reminds me of a younger version of the guy from Dust Till Dawn.
Okay.
That's who he reminds me of. Like the um what is that actor's name? I feel dumb now, but yeah, he reminds me of him in a lot of ways, like a younger version.
It's Tremel Tillman is the actor's name.
Yeah.
Apparently he's in Severance, so I probably should watch that, considering it's an Apple show. But yeah, he's so fucking good, and I love the way he just keeps saying Mister. He keeps
Fred
calling Tom
Williamson. He
Cruise.
reminds me of Fred Williamson. That's who I'm thinking of. Sorry. I had to
Like
look it up.
he has that. I love that part where like Tom Cruise is like, you know, telling him, "I want you to go and fucking get this submarine to chase us, to show us, you know, whatever," and he's like, "Mister, if you want someone to poke the bear, you came to the right man."
oh, that was
It's like
badass.
that was so fucking cool.
Well,
Uh,
and that is something I do appreciate about all these movies is they do it to a degree, but they don't overdo the you can't do this thing. They're just like, fuck it. He says he's got to do it. Let's do it. You
it
know,
is what it
like
is.
we're in it.
Yeah, we'll do it. Um, Obviously, kind of touched on earlier, this film really like pushes the stakes as far as they could possibly go. We're like literally in like essentially a post-apocalyptic world,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is really interesting. You never think it would go that far, but we essentially live in like a fucking 1984. You know, the world is
Yeah.
controlled by this entity. Very, very interesting place for the series to go. But I want to be a bit more positive for the rest of this. So if you guys have any like niggling problems with this film, like let's get them out of the way now and we can talk about how fucking dope the rest of the movie is.
Yeah. So I got it. Like, I want to spend time talking about how fun this movie is, but let's be honest, the script is absolute dog shit.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
It is.
it is just, it's written by a child. Like, I can't, I was every single scene where they're in the president's quarters and they have these like those shots where they pan like they're like below them for dramatic effect up to their very serious looking face, but it's like Nick Offerman. I was like,
Without a mustache, which is just like weird.
Weirdly, they should have had the guy who played secretary to play his part because like the guy I just know him as Bullet from like Wrath of Man, but he played like Mindhunters and shit. He
uh-huh.
is such an overly serious dude. I was like, he would have been perfect for this. You
Hmm.
got their parts mixed up.
Yeah, like I don't even, yeah, I just like I was half the movie, I was like, Jesus fuck, like, come on. But then the movie's just so raw, entertaining. Like it's impossible not to have a good time, which we'll get into. But like, yeah, this is a horrible, horrible script. Like probably the worst one of the franchise. Um, and that's yeah. Anyways, I just like I don't know if I would want to watch this movie again. But I would love like that. But to get to the good, like the submarine sequence is probably some of the whole thing, all the way from when he goes to that base, and the cut between the submarine and then the listening base, the Sonos base. Like I don't know, that's probably my favorite action sequence in the last like 10 years, 20 years. Like it's just perfect.
It
So
was one of those ones that was well done so well. I felt cold. Like I was so impressed by like I just felt cold watching it.
yeah,
I
yeah,
was
yeah.
like, Jesus. I was like, ugh.
Yeah.
No, and they
I
pretty
was
much
squirming in my for the entire submarine sequence. I was just squirming in my seat.
Ah,
and it
It was
almost
so
pisses you off because
tense.
you're like, I know he's gonna live. And it
Yeah,
kind of
I know,
pisses me
right?
off because I'm still nervous about
It's like
it.
there's a fucking hour and a half left of this movie. They're not killing Tom Cruise, you know. I
I would
love that
honestly give them credit if they did.
like
Like,
they didn't even like show the whole like we've seen Tom Cruise be revived about 50 million times in this series at this point. They didn't even bother to show us like show him getting revived. They don't have to. You're just like fuck it. Let's just cut to him being in this fucking whatever
tense.
decompression tent. We don't need to show the whole. Like these people are not going to believe he's going to be dead. Let's just cut this bullshit.
Yeah, and it's and I mean they are very confident in what they're doing because like I agree with you, Chris. The script is bad, not the dialogue. I actually think the dialogue is fine, but they're like, I don't care how we get here, we're getting here. Like these are the parts that are necessary, and people are gonna not give a shit about the first 30 minutes. So we're just gonna cram every bit of exposition you'll ever need into this half hour, and then people are gonna forget about it by the end.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, I did.
It's like no one's gonna give a shit when the fucking sunk submarine is about to go over a cliff. No one's gonna
Yeah.
Yeah.
care.
No, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so they're interesting. They're interesting movies because they do have like I don't know, I'll call it a maturity, but I guess where we watch Fast and Furious, it does feel like a maturity in that, like aware. I guess that awareness, like it has at least enough self awareness to what it's doing that it ends up succeeding because of it. Like I almost feel like they know this shit isn't working, and they're just like, fuck it, who cares?
Like I think to be fair, like with the Mission Impossible movies, it is more of a tonal thing as it like with the Fast and Furious, especially the later ones, it's just like all the shit is just so like like it's just like you basically might as well be watching a superhero movie. They're like just completely just get rid of any shred of realism. Whereas with Mission Impossible, there's always that like it is still kind of grounded. Like some of the stuff that
Right.
Ethan does is obviously crazy. Some of the gadgets they have are insane, but like they don't do anything that's like completely outside the realms of possibility. Nobody has like superhuman strength. Nobody, can suddenly fucking get a car to fly over a cliff and like attach onto a wire to get over to the other, whatever bullshit they do in fucking other fast, like in the later Fast and
Gunshots kill
Furious
you,
movie.
you know. Yeah.
Yeah, like there is still stakes and it is still somewhat grounded. Whereas Fast and Furious movies, they just don't give a shit about. Like they have no interest in being grounded, which is fine. But I think that's why, despite them being somewhat similar in tone, the Mission Impossible movies do end up just being better because they kind of know their limitations. They do want to keep the audience kind of hooked in a way where we know Tom Cruise is not gonna die, but like he's doing some shit that like he's getting close. You know what I mean? Like, we're getting to that point where like shit, he might. Um,
Like that
you know,
submarine scene where you're like, he cannot waste any time, and then he gets fucking like attached to the sub while it's going down. It's
yeah,
like, what
it's
the
Yeah,
so
fuck, dude?
tense. It's
Like, what the
so
fuck?
it's so fucking tense. And especially like towards the end, I don't know if you guys were the same, but like with this kind of being like the final one, like I was so fucking sure that he was dead. You know what I mean? Like I didn't think he was getting out of this. I thought he was going to save the world, and then like if we can get it kind of into spoiler territory a little bit with this. So obviously we have that kind of final sequence where they're in the biplanes,
Right.
which is this is the big set piece of this because the submarine, it's not he's not in any real danger here. It's obviously not a he's not on a real submarine. He's not really at the bottom of the ocean or whatever. It's all shot on a set.
Do we know
But
that for
like,
sure?
yes, we do.
We,
Um,
we we don't think like he got like a USS submarine sunk in and said, "All right, I'm going down there."
Yeah, that would have
Okay,
been a
just to
bit
make
too
sure.
far. But with the planes is all real. That's him really
God,
going
that's nervous.
between planes. Like I was reading the behind the scenes on this, and there's that scene where he's like on the wing of the plane about to try to get to the other one, kind of going through that ravine.
Yeah,
Like that's him on the wing of a plane. All they did was just CGI out the actual pilot of the plane he's standing on. That's
that is
like
wild.
it's utter insanity. The whole biplane stuff is just it's an insane set piece. Um, I think the how it ends with Gabriel is kind of a bit disappointing, but like
It was kind of funny though. I will say I did laugh.
it was kind of funny, I guess it was kind of funny.
But it goes into that like cartoonish Looney Tunes
Yeah.
thing. So
Yeah,
I was for that because I
but
was more
like
into that.
there's that real moment where like the only time probably in this entire series where I thought, all right, that's it, that's game over for Ethan Hunt was like when he's there and he has the thing, the fucking MacGuffin. He has the MacGuffin.
Both MacGuffins.
He
Yeah, that's
has
two.
he has the
This one needed two.
MacGuffins. Yeah, he has the one he needs to win. He has the winning MacGuffin. He needs to do the thing, but he also happens to be fucking plummeting to his death. And I was like, okay, that's it. He's gonna do it, but like he's not gonna make it. And like I was like, that's this gonna be the end. He's gonna die saving the world, and that's it. And they decided not to go that route, but I think it would have been okay if they did.
Oh,
Um,
I think it
I
was good
was,
for his character. Like I actually thought that was a great character moment for him. Like to
yeah,
just see that.
yeah.
I wanted him
Um,
to die there, not like in a negative way, but like just from like a story perspective, I thought that would have been poetic.
yeah, I think it would have been poetic as well. It's yeah,
Especially because they had been setting up like the whole Simon Pegg thing all movie. Like this is your team. This is for you.
Exactly, yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
One
Which
one
I'm
thing
still
that
fine with. Like I have no problem with him not dying because I can understand like the argument like is that too tonally far from what we've done?
Well, I
And I
suppose you could leave it ambiguous though. Like you
yeah,
don't need to show fucking his
the
body fucking
parachute.
splattered on a fucking in the savannah or whatever. You just leave it ambiguous. You just kind of say that nobody hears from him afterwards. Yeah, he's probably, you
What
know,
a wild way they could have like ended it, just a splatter of blood during the credits.
yeah, exactly. Like or like fucking like Scarlett Johansson in Infinity War or whatever, or Endgame, whatever fucking movie she dies in, I can't remember. Whatever Avengers movie she dies in, just kind of on the ground or whatever. Like
You
they
know,
could.
I was actually thinking about that while we were watching this. I'm trying to remember the thing because I always criticize that scene because it was fucking Jeremy Renner and her fighting to see who's going to die. And I'm like, no one in this theater cares. They don't care which one it is.
Yeah,
Don't drag this shit out.
it's kind of true. It's kind of true. Yeah, they could have made. I think the only thing they could have done was made it ambiguous. They could have just like,
Yeah.
has anyone? Nobody's heard from Ethan. He hasn't checked in, but like
And his wife is still alive, right?
we
Or
guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Is she mentioned in this movie at all?
Oh,
I
no,
can't
no.
remember. Like
She
I
never
keep
killed
getting
them.
I was like, if they wanted to bring that girl back for like to fucking do a Michael Caine fucking
A
or
head
some
nod. Yeah. Well, they already kind of did that in Ghost Protocol, though. Remember at the end of
Oh
Ghost
yeah,
Protocol?
yeah, that's right. I
They
forgot
already
about
kind of
that.
did that where, they kind of reveal she wasn't dead and he does the nod from across the fucking
I forgot they did that
they
already.
did
Yeah.
they kind of do that already. So yeah, they could have ended it a bit more ambiguously because they do that fucking I hate the last scene of this movie where they're all just standing around in Trafalgar Square in London, just like staring at each other and nodding and then walking away. That's so like imagine if you're just like a random person and you just see this group of people just all looking at each other and nodding and what like
No,
You,
absolute dog shit writing.
awful ending. Like the last
honestly,
scene is just
it's
terrible.
I'll tell you how bad it is. I don't even remember that being the end. The last thing I remember from the movie is him listening to the Vin Grimes things and the thing getting destroyed, and then remembering John Voight's son like shaking his hand. That was the
Yeah.
last thing I from that movie I remember. And I just
That's
saw
like
it
a perfectly
yesterday.
fine way to end the movie. You know what I mean? There's,
I actually thought the Luther message was really nice. I was like, you
yeah,
know what? That's all. That to me made his death worth it. Just
Good.
and I like that the self destruction thing came in and destroyed that fucking thing. I was like,
Good.
that's cool. That's like, you want to talk about a lot of the writing in that shit? I was like, actually, that's good. Like I will give them credit
A
there.
couple of more writing things actually now that I'm thinking about it. Um, so first of all, I'll go back to I'll circle back around to something I mentioned earlier that made me laugh in the theater was when they revealed that the rabbit's foot was the source code for the
Oh
entity.
yeah. Yeah.
Because like we joked about this when we talked about Mission Impossible 3, where I asked you guys what the MacGuffin was, and nobody could explain what it was because they didn't bother to explain it in the movie.
It
They
was a
just
very
left.
JJ inclusion.
So, I did like that they did actually come around. That's a bit of fan service that I was okay with. I thought that was actually kind of funny that the way they brought the rabbit's foot back in, kind of made it a full circle moment. They finally explained what it was, that everyone was after in this third movie. So I did like that. Um, One thing I didn't like is that like they suddenly like changed what Luther's thing was like halfway through the film and like never addressed it. So like they
Okay,
called
thank
it
you.
the
I thought I was just confused, so
like
I'm
they
glad you're
called
gonna
it
explain.
no, well like this is well like maybe I'm confused, but like my understanding from what Luther described it was this is a poison pill that when you put the source code in, it would destroy the entity. But then just suddenly, like halfway through the movie, they're like, no, we need to trap them in this thing in South Africa where they can't access the rest of cyberspace, and then we can cut the wires. So I don't get it. I don't the whole like meaning of the thing changed and it was never explained.
The only thing I kind of got is it's just supposed to be a virus, and like it can't. Apparently, they can't trap it without that virus. But I feel like if that was the case, fucking Luther should have made it longer than a blink of an eye. Like fuck you for that. Like make it like 8 seconds or something.
True,
You
true.
know.
But yeah, like I mean, if we're trying to defend the movie on these grounds, like this movie sucks.
Oh,
Like
absolutely, yeah. This is
like we
overthinking it,
can't
but yeah.
like this is not the reason that this is my second or third favorite movie in this franchise. Like the plot and the writing for this movie is just horrible. Like every single time they cut to the president's office, I was like, fuck.
But they got
Yeah.
Angela Bassett to do this. Look at that. That was actually good
Yeah.
casting, though.
And
Well,
she
she
did a
was in
good job.
Fallout, remember?
Oh, is she?
She's the
Yeah,
Shit, I
CIA.
don't even
She's the
remember that.
CIA. She's the CIA director.
Oh
Fallout.
shit.
yeah. And they like talk about that. They're
Oh.
like, you like,
Well, they talk about a lot of people they say were there and then they weren't. So
Well,
I just
that's
like accept it.
why like that's why her and Ethan have this existing relationship. You know what I mean? It's because he
Okay, fair
obviously
enough. I just forgot.
yeah. So she's that's why she trusts him really,
yeah,
because obviously the way everything went out of Fallout. But speaking of Fallout, the ending of Fallout is the same as this movie. Did you guys put that
Holy
together?
shit, it
It's the
is.
same ending because they have
yeah.
half the team trying to dismantle something but while they're doing that they need to wait for Ethan to do what he needs to do with the other half and he needs to chase the villain in a vehicle that goes in the air, helicopter versus biplane, and then the villain dies by getting hit in the head with said vehicle, and then Ethan just about manages to do the thing he needs to do in time for the guys on the other end to do what they need to do on time, and then that's they fix it.
I
It's
don't
the
know if we talked
same
about.
ending.
Yeah, did we? I think it was last episode we started bringing it up that they got like really into that idea that the team needs to be doing multiple things at once, which I still
Yeah,
think is a great change. Like, I don't
yeah,
think
for
they really
sure.
do it in the first three. But yeah, once they figured that out in Rogue Nation or Ghost Protocol, whichever one, it's like, we're going to do this every time,
Yeah, no,
forever.
it is a good way
Yeah.
to kind of, split scenes up and stuff like that and kind of create tension.
Yeah.
Um, but just one other thing, just with that blink of the eye thing, just while it's on fresh in my brain, that pissed me off because not because the whole blink of the eye shit, that's fine. It's because Grace's whole character is built up for this one moment where she's so quick that she'll be able to do it in the blink of an eye. And she doesn't even do it in the fucking blink of an eye because she goes, oh, Ethan, and then cuts it. She has time to say Ethan's name and then cuts the fucking wire. Like, bitch, you were too late.
But yeah,
You
like
know,
you
by
have
the
destroyed the
rule,
world. Good
by
job.
the rules of this movie, you fucking ended the world by saying Ethan's name instead of just cutting it as soon as, like, she's supposed to cut it as soon as she sees the light. But
Well,
she
no,
goes, oh, Ethan, and then cuts it.
but they didn't count for the voiceover factor. Or does she
That's
actually say it as a
She
voiceover?
says it. She says it out loud. She goes like, "Oh,
Um,
Ethan," and then
oh,
cuts it.
she's
You know
yeah,
what I
then she's
mean?
done. Yeah, then she's done.
Like that annoyed the crap out of me. I was like this literally is the only reason your character exists.
I do have a
Maybe
question for you guys, as far as we talk about Nick Offerman's character. So there's that scene,
Uh-huh.
like where he asks his subordinate for his pistol.
Yeah.
I can't decide if it's a good subversion or it's dumb. Because I was thinking when she says she's not going to do it, he was like going to hold her hostage. But
Yeah.
then he ends up saving her life with it.
Yeah.
I'm like, is that a good subversion or is it just like a fuck
Well,
you to the audience?
what
I
I
can't
don't,
tell.
what I don't, so I guess like I was the same with you. I assumed he asked for the gun because he was going to take action into his own hands. But then I was like, why doesn't he have his own gun?
They're not
Um,
supposed to carry him. That's an actual
okay.
thing. Yeah,
Oh,
like when
right.
you're that
Okay.
high up, you're not supposed to carry it around the president and stuff like
Okay.
that.
I suppose the subversion, like I didn't mind the subversion. And I think now thinking back to the scene where he asks for the gun, it was meant, the audience was meant to think it was so that he could take action to his own hands. But now looking back, it's probably he was taking action to his own hands as in to stop anyone else. He was confiscating the gun, not taking it. Does that make sense?
Oh, okay. So like he was like, look, even if I end up disagreeing, I don't want her to get shot.
Exactly. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I'm gonna stop anyone else from getting a pop at her. So give me your gun. I'm not gonna put it in your hands. That's the way
Okay.
that's the way, like when I was thinking about like when this, because initially I thought the same as you, action into his own hands, and then obviously someone tries to pop her and he saves her life, and then I was like, oh, okay, he probably took the other guy's gun to try and stop mitigate something like this happening.
Yeah, because they do have that whole thing where there's like religious fanatics about the entity, which they don't
Yeah,
really
I
go
forgot about
into.
that. What the fuck? I forgot all about that.
Like there's some accelerant, what do they call it? Accelerants who believe, you should just hurry up and end the world so we can restart. I guess that's what they're supposed to be.
Which is so stupid because this takes place like 2 months after, like how have they built this cult in 2 months?
And it's just like random people. Like there's that dude on the submarine, and
Yeah,
Yeah.
like cool enough. Like the fight seems fun. I'm not gonna. This is the I guess the magic of Mission Impossible. They can do something so fucking stupid like that, but
Yeah.
I don't care
You
because the
don't care.
scene's good.
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
that's the magic of the movie.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think
No,
I need to stop thinking about this movie.
Before I ruin it for Adam.
I was gonna call out those two characters because I was laughing really hard both times. The first, actually, that's not true. The first time was just more of a chuckle of like, oh wow, we have a random like, you know, it's like a in Marvel movies, it'd be like a random Hydra member that's just
Yeah,
there.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Like we've
that's
got this little
100%
random Hydra member that's on the most secret submarine in the world in the US. It's like,
it.
it's like, no, we got to do the entity.
Like they don't vet the shit out of these people.
Yeah,
when
yeah,
they get up
exactly,
on
exactly.
there.
And also, like he's been on that ship for longer than the entity's been around. Anyways, um,
Oh shit,
but
you're right.
yeah, but anyways, but when they did it in the president's office, I actually laughed in the theater, but because I was just like, this fucking movie, man. Like it doesn't matter. Like it just doesn't matter, right? You just want to see Tom Cruise, um, like nearly dying as he floats up to the surface of the water, and then somehow his body doesn't freeze to death, whatever. And then you want to see him jumping off an airplane for no reason.
Well, this is what pulp is about, right? Like when you talk about
Yes,
like pulp novels and shit,
yes,
like if you start analyzing the writing, you're like, what the fuck is this dog shit? And how did this person get a publisher? But then you're like, none of that matters. Who
Yeah,
cares?
no.
it's true. It's true. So I think we're pretty much all in a very similar boat then, that Final Reckoning is a fucking mess of a movie, but at least it's fun.
Yeah, like I actually want to go see it again in theaters. I was like, fuck, that was fun. And I'm like, I'll never get a chance to see another Mission Impossible in theaters probably. So I should
Yeah.
probably like take advantage.
Yeah.
No, this will get rebooted in 10 years or so.
I I don't like this is one where I'm actually kind of like if they tried it, it maybe it'd be successful. I could be wrong. But like I feel like Tom Cruise set the bar so fucking high with doing all those stunts. I was like, name another actor who'd be willing to do it.
Yeah, you can't really. I think like if they were to reboot it, they would have to keep Cruise and McQuarrie on as producers. Like let someone else take over directing and writing and be the star or whatever. Like go in with a fresh cast. But I think you have to keep those guys on board, even just from like a consultant point of view, because they just get it.
Yeah, like I mean, if you go into Mission Impossible and you try to remake really the first four, like if you were trying to do it in the style of the first four movies, I don't think people care. Like
Mm.
those all have good like merits on their own way. I like the first Mission Impossible. I like three and I like four. But if you try to go back now, I don't think it's interesting. Like I think you've hit some type of plateau or some type of wall that you've gotten through and you've got to do that. That's like the identity of Mission Impossible now.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Every time you see like a cardboard cutout, it's about whatever the fuck the big stunt in the movie is.
Yeah, for sure. It's the main it's the series' unique selling point is what batshit thing is Tom Cruise doing this year in Mission
Yeah, because like
Impossible.
I was talking about somebody who's like John Wick. John Wick probably like as far as fight choreography goes, as far as stunt individual stunt work, it's top class. But what Mission Impossible does so well is the bombastic set piece.
Hmm.
Like even John Wick doesn't touch that type of shit. Like
Yeah.
as good as it is in stunts and everything else, they don't do that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It's very much gun focused and very much individual. Where this is like, okay, what if somebody was hung from an airplane?
No, I
And it's
mean,
like, we can't do that.
we spoke about this early on, but like he is Charlie Chaplin or Buster Keaton or Jackie
Yeah,
Chan. Like he is that guy, right?
yeah.
Yeah, and it's sad because he's like what 60 some years old. Like,
Hmm.
Yeah.
it's like who's next? Like, I mean, where do you get like somebody like that?
There
Hmm.
didn't aren't they making an Uncharted movie with the Spider-Man guy?
They already
They already
did. It came
did.
out like 5 years ago.
Okay.
It
Was it?
sucked.
It was. Oh, it sucked. Darn. Okay. I was
To be
gonna
Yeah,
say
fair to
because
Tom.
Tom
Uncharted.
Holland though, like he does quite a bit of his own stunt work. He has that
Yeah,
gymnastics background, so I don't know how good of an actor Tom Holland is, but maybe, give him like another 10 or 15 years to kind of age up a little bit and get a bit more looking like a grown up, and maybe he could be that guy.
well, and I think to me the maybe the person who because you got to have the charisma too. Like we talked
Yeah.
about this a lot with last time. Cruz has got such a big personality and he's so charismatic. I was
Yeah.
like, who younger really does that? And I do think about like Glenn Powell, but I was like, that'd be like the closest to like
He
modern.
has
Like,
the yeah, he has like Glenn Powell definitely has that charisma, but like that's why he was so good in Top Gun Maverick as well. Glenn Powell's really good in that in that film. He definitely has that charm, but like, does he have that physicalness?
that suicidal tendency that
Yeah,
Cruz has to
exactly.
have.
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly. Exactly.
Perfectionism or whatever. It'd be interesting to see the direction the series goes if they do. I can't see a world where they don't keep making these movies because they make so much fucking money. So I just don't see a world where they stop, but it'd be interesting to see what direction they go. Um, do we want to do a ranking before we finish up?
yeah, I'm down. I'll pull mine up.
I,
I,
I'm happy to go first if y'all are getting ready, just so we can end on good takes.
yeah, sure, go ahead.
Go for it, man.
Um, for me, it's Fallout, Rogue Nation, Final Reckoning, top three.
Okay.
Then MI1, Ghost Nation, Impossible 3 in the middle,
Mm-hmm.
and then Dead Reckoning in two.
Jesus, you have Dead Reckoning really low.
Yeah, it was just boring. I just didn't. No, there's nothing really there that got my blood flowing at all.
And
Okay.
since Adam is the resident Mission Impossible fan, I'll let him end on it. So mine was Rogue Nation, number one. Number
Mm-hmm.
two was Fallout. Number three was Final Reckoning. Four was Dead Reckoning. Jesus, these titles get confusing after a minute. Then after that, it's MI1, MI3, Ghost Protocol, and then MI2. But I should note the only one I don't like is MI2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same here. The only one I don't like is MI2. It's at the bottom. So for me, number one, Fallout. Number two, Rogue Nation. Number three, Dead Reckoning. Then Final Reckoning. But Final Reckoning and Ghost Protocol are kind of similar to me. I think Final Reckoning is obviously way more fucking fun and has a better villain. But I think Ghost Protocol is just a tighter, more well-made movie, has a better script. Um, Mission Impossible 1, then at number 6. So just outside the top 5, Mission Impossible 1. And then MI3, and then MI2, because MI2 fucking sucks.
So
I will bring this up just as we're finishing up like the series. It was probably good that they had something like MI2 and MI3 because I think it like gave them almost like a spectrum of seriousness to weird, like to ridiculousness. Like there was almost like a scale at two and three, and they said about right there.
true,
That's where we need to be.
true, true. I'm sorry, I messed up. I forgot we talked about this last episode. Rogue Nation was my number one, Fallout number two.
Oh,
I
okay,
got
so me and you were the same there. Okay.
yeah. I remember because there's elements of Fallout that I like better, but Rogue Nation one, two, and then three is Final Reckoning. Um,
I was surprised when I went back on my ranking and I had Ghost Protocol later, but I was like, shit, I can't remember anything about Ghost Protocol. And so I was like, I do remember more from MI3,
oh, Ghost
technically. So
Protocol.
I ended up putting MI3 a little ahead.
I call it Ghost Nation. Everything is
Ghost
named.
Nation, you're like, it's one of them.
Um, but no, your point though is like, the series took a while to kind of find itself, right?
It
And
did.
then once it did, like they've hit this stride now, and their biggest constraint is Tom Cruise's age. Um, so they need to figure out if there's, I mean, Simon Pegg's not going to be that guy.
No,
No.
he's the guy behind the desk. You know,
And
Yeah,
he's a great support character. Like Shaun of the Dead's great, and he's good in like a comedy to lead.
right.
But no, he could not lead a Mission Impossible movie.
like
Mm.
he could be the director style
That's kind of what I'm
character.
thinking.
You know
Yeah,
what I
Yeah.
mean?
like
Because
like he's the director that like lets them go on the mission, takes the heat for the team, and then shows up to help them out, like at the last scene or something.
yeah, for sure. Like if you're talking about like if you were to do like a legacy, like let's just give it 10 years, then do a legacy sequel to Mission Impossible. Like Ethan Hunt as a character, Ethan Hunt is not going to be the director of IMF.
No,
That's
there's
just
no way he couldn't do that job.
it's not a no, this is definitely a Simon like a what Benji's
But
Yeah,
character
yeah,
can
yeah, yeah.
be that guy. He can be the director. He can give the mission at the start. He can, as you said, take shit for them off the Congress or whatever when whoever the new kind of main agent is goes rogue. And then he can, like I said, tie it up at the end. He can be that Benji can definitely be that legacy character that you can bring back to kind of tie it into the original series if you're gonna kind of do that legacy sequel stuff that's popular.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but like I think at this point, and this is why I kind of would have liked that they kind of left Ethan Hunt's fate a little bit ambiguous. Because it does allow you, if you did want to kind of bring him back in a scene to be a mentor or whatever, you kind of had that freedom. Whereas now you don't really know what to do with him because he's definitely not going to be. He can't be. It'd be weird for him to be a a director style character. You'd feel like if he came back and started doing missions again, it would kind of cheapen the final reckoning. So, like, what do you do with him now?
And
You
it's
know,
hard to put like Cruz can actually do side characters, so it's not like he's unable to do it. He's done it several times, but it's also like a really interesting balance. Like you look at something like Interview with the Vampire, he's going to take over if even if you put him as a side character, he's going to take over the spotlight,
yeah,
and that's a hard relationship to get if you're trying to make a new lead.
yeah,
And that's it is an awkward position to be in.
But
yeah.
I could see like a Luke Skywalker situation where he's retired and he's like on some island, like doing some death-defying stunt just for breakfast, and and then they like need him for one final mission, and they go pull him in. He like doesn't want to do it, but then the bad guy like somehow, I don't know, he has like a secret kid, or there's like ways you could pull him back
So he
in.
has to go rogue.
I just feel like that would cheapen this
Yeah,
movie.
I
To
mean,
pull him back into a mission situation would cheapen this, I think.
but think about it from Cruise's perspective. He's 63, right?
Probably
But he
somewhere
has
in
the
the
body of
60s.
like
Yeah.
a 24-year-old. So he's probably not nervous about like he probably doesn't want to slow down, right? So if he doesn't go Mission Impossible, like where is he going to put that energy? Like what's he
Well, I
going to
think
do?
he wants to start doing, he wants to go back and start doing more character work, from what I read. He
Really?
wants to go back to doing those kind of more serious roles. And then he also talked about wanting to do a legacy sequel to Days of Thunder.
Dude, please do Days of
Um,
Thunder. That would be awesome.
Yeah. I
so
mean, I guess I
because
just
he's a
imagine.
great, like I said, like he's probably the greatest action actor of his generation, but he's also a really great fucking actor.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So it would be
Yeah.
cool to see him go and do some more serious stuff after this.
But the thing with Cruz too, even when he's not like we always talk about his perfectionism when he's doing like the big stunts and stuff, but he's weirdly thoughtful about any role he does. Like I think about like Les Grossman in Tropic Thunder, and like he was the one that had the idea for giving him like overly large hands and
Yeah,
doing this
yeah.
stuff. Like he can create that character like these characters like that, and he kind of knows like the tone of a movie pretty well and works with it.
Mhm.
Hmm. Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. I guess that's all we can do is wait and see what happens.
Yeah, this was
Um,
fun, Adam. Thank you. This was actually really enjoyable.
don't know why you're saying thank you to me. It was Chris' idea,
Was
but
it your? Oh, I apologize, Chris. Thank you, because I
um,
I
I
assumed it was
was
Adam.
happy to facilitate.
Yeah.
Because I would have been watching all these anyway. So it's
Well,
great that I could talk to them, talk to you guys
yeah.
about them.
As much as I love Lars von Trier, I will say this series was much easier to go through.
For sure.
Um,
Yeah, this was at least a lot more like there were great stuff. Like we brought up Fast and Furious because the last action one we did last summer, but it's like there were really good movies in that, but it was nowhere near this consistent. Like I never dreaded watching one of these, whereas like when we got to like Fast and Furious 9, I'm like, fuck.
oh my God, it was
It
I was
so
was
like,
a
I gotta
bit
watch Fast and Furious
mind-numbing.
9.
Yeah, it
so
became
miserable.
mind-numbing after a while.
So, gentlemen, I have an idea for what to do next
Okay, go for it.
if you accept this mission. Um, when everybody thinks about action stars, I think their mind goes in one or two directions. You've either got the Mission Impossible style movies, or you've got that Clint Eastwood style, like cold, serious, quiet killer that's just you don't ever mess with him. He's gonna win. Like who's the other big one? The the guy who's Texas Ranger, Chuck Norris. And there's a B actor version of that I think doesn't get enough credit for how badass he actually is. And it's Charles Bronson. And I want to bring Charles Bronson up and show y'all some movies that for me represent the strength of Charles Bronson as a lead before he got into Death Wish, which is kind of the one that he was really put him on the map as far as like an international star. So if as a bonus, if anybody listening wants to watch Death Wish, if they haven't, I highly, highly recommend it. Phenomenal movie. Um, but I thought it would be fun to look at his career in Europe before he came back to the States and really kind of dominated the scene there for a decade or so, or maybe two. But there was a lot of co-productions from France and America. So the first one I want to recommend is Cold Sweat, which is directed by Terrence Young, who you may know from being a James Bond director. Zach, that's not how you would know him.
He did
But
horror stuff. I know from that, I think. Did
yes,
he?
he
Yeah.
did. The studio director probably directed 80 movies. I don't know. I have to go check. Very active studio director. But there's a movie called Cold Sweat. The plot is an American living in France must face his past when his wife and daughter are kidnapped by former fellow convicts turned narcotics dealers that he double crossed. So cool, cool plot for an action movie. He acts the hell out of that movie. 1971, there's a French America co-production called Someone Behind the Door. A neurosurgeon and a psychiatrist manipulate an amnesiac, somebody with no memory, to murder his wife's lover, believing the patient will have no memory of what he's done, providing the surgeon with the perfect alibi. These interesting plots that were happening in Europe in the 70s when they were just kind of going out. And then finally, the role that really put him on the map as somebody that's just a badass is The Mechanic in 1972. And I'm not going to read the plot for this one, just the tagline. In this box are the tools of his trade. He has more than a dozen ways to kill, and they all work. They call him the mechanic.
Is
You know,
this
I'm
related to
actually
the
really
Jason Statham mechanic movie?
No, but probably in spirit.
Oh, okay.
But
Is
no,
it
not
not? So
directed.
the Jason Statham was not a remake or anything, no?
No, I don't think so. The mechanic, that movie is slightly different, although he is a hitman. I mean, I guess there's probably some similarities, but I don't believe.
I'm,
Oh,
I'm
wait a
just
minute.
I'm just gonna go ahead and look
Hold
this up.
on. Is it the same? Oh, okay. Well, hell, yeah. I guess they did. I guess they did remake it. It's
Yeah, it is
different.
a remake.
Like, I mean, if you take away the core like plot, I guess that's the same. But the way they go about the movies is quite different. So, anyways, yeah, I guess it's the same.
You know, I was actually surprised if you're going with like a Bronson, Michael Winner sort of thing. I'm actually like impressed with you not just choosing Death Wish.
Well, I feel like here's the reason why. The whole premise of this was to show y'all Death Wish and the sequels. That's how it started.
Hmm.
But then I was like, well, hold on. Like, there's a better than zero chance that Adam and Zach will have either seen Death Wish or will come across it at some point in their lives. But less of a chance of Cold Sweat, Someone Beyond Behind the Door, and The Mechanic I feel like these movies are all pretty badass. So
Yeah, I haven't seen any of them, so I'm looking forward to
I'm
Yeah,
gonna
that was
purposely
kinda-
never watch Death Wish for the rest of my life now.
it. Just to spite
I'm gonna
Chris.
make it my mission in my life to never watch Death Wish.
I believe you that you carry that much spite, and I respect you for it. Good movie though.
All right.
Right, well, we'll be back. We'll be back in a few weeks, I guess. We're not gonna we figure out our own schedules. Like I said, the Substack's gonna be going live. I'll have the link in the description if you want to give us a follow there. We can probably be a bit more up to date when we're recording and stuff through the Substack and just put a little post up to let people know we're recording
Yeah.
and the episode's going to be out whenever. So we can keep you up to date there if you want to be a bit more up to date with where we're at. Thanks again for Chris for picking the Mission Impossible movies. Like I said, it's one of my favorite series. Love these movies. I'm glad we got a chance to talk about them.
Yeah.
The Bronson, I was looking at the Bronson ones you picked earlier on Letterboxd. They all have dope cat. Like Liv Ullmann is in one of these movies. She's like my
Oh, yeah.
favorite actress ever. So I'm like, fuck yeah, let's go. So I'm looking forward to watching them. So yeah, we'll see each other in a few weeks.
Awesome.
All right.
Thanks.
This podcast will self-destruct in 5 seconds.
Thank you for listening. To hear more shows from the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network, please select the link in the description.
If you're looking for more horror outside of the mainstream, look no further than Unsung Horrors, a podcast about underseen horror movies. I'm Lance.
And I'm Erica. Every other week, we'll cover a horror movie with fewer than 1,000 views on Letterboxd. We'll even give you double feature recommendations to pair with the movies we discuss.
From gothic to shot on video, from slashers to comedies, from giallo to J-horror, we'll cover all the subgenres. So join us as we unearth these hidden gems of horror.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all at Unsung Horrors, available wherever you listen to podcasts. And part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.